Call the meeting to order. We have some announcements first. The Sage Center is hosting a Veterans Breakfast Thursday, July 31st at 10 a.m. And they've started a new Mahjong program every Wednesday, 1 to 4. There's also a time within that for beginners. If you've never played, if you would like to learn, just contact Council on Aging. The warrant for the fall special town meetings expected to close at our August 21st meeting. Article request should be into the town clerk's office on or before Monday, August 18th. Those forms are available on the town website. And a call for volunteers, members needed on Finance Committee, Climate Change Resiliency Committee, ZBA, Conservation Commission, and others. These are listed on the town website on the homepage under the volunteer tab. Public comment is our first item. Does anybody wish to make a public comment? Would you like to?
So, yeah, this is just for your consideration in the future. I know it's not gonna be an issue at this meeting or something you're gonna take right now.
Could you introduce yourself?
So, thank you for letting me, giving us a couple of moments to speak. I'm Michael Maswell. I live at 62 Maple Street. I purchased approximately 2 years ago, coming up on second anniversary there. We're very happy with the town, but so I'm just gonna read this as I printed it because I will lose my thoughts. I'm not a great public speaker. I would like to propose installing a stop sign on Maple Street at the intersection of Maple Street, Ash, and Georgetown Road. We are hoping that the stop sign on Maple Street and Georgetown Road will work to help drivers decrease the overall speed traveling from Main Street to Georgetown Road, as well as reduce sustained speeds on Georgetown Road and Maple Street. As of now, drivers accelerate all the way down Maple Street and Georgetown Road with excessive speed. Excessive speeding on Maple Street has become a continuing problem. Despite the posted 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, many cars will, and large trucks as well, will push well beyond that. The stop sign in both directions at this location would require the driver to decelerate as they approach the stop sign. This would reduce the higher sustained speeds that we're experiencing on Maple Street now. We understand that lowering the speed limit is a difficult process as it is controlled by the state. And also previous attempts to lower speed limits on other streets in our town has been unsuccessful. A stop sign at this location would contribute greatly to the safety of the residents who travel the street on foot to the market, as well as walk their pets, and as well as children that ride their bikes and play along the street daily during the school vacation. Many residents that I have spoken to are of the opinion cars and trucks are traveling much too fast for our street, with little or no consideration for the people that are walking along the roadsides. I thank you, and I thank the board for hearing me out, and if you could just bring that to your consideration at some point, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would be willing to leave a hard copy, that way we could get that in circulation with, and you've got a great audience here tonight because you have our highway superintendent and our police and fire chiefs both happen to be here to hear your comments, so we can get that circulation and if the chair puts that on a future agenda, we'll let you know.
I thank you very much, and I thank you for your time. And by the way, I love West Newbury, and Butch is the man. He's the greatest guy.
Here we are.
So helpful. I can't say enough great things about him. I enjoyed you as Paul Bunyan because you're bigger than you are in real life. Thank you so much. Have a great day, folks. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? That'll be a tough act to follow. Okay. Town manager updates.
So the first one every year around this time after the July 15th statutory deadline for processing prior fiscal year invoices or line item transfers. We always run just a preliminary report of how all the expenses lined up against budgeted. The report, as I'm sure you noticed, does reflect line item transfers. That's why you see no lines over 100%. But there are some lines underspent. So every year as we do, I meet with Jenny, we go through those. We talk about which are the lines with the more significant turnbacks, some of which, are always to do with short staffing or a period of a position not being filled, that kind of thing. But there's, the typical ones that are kind of year after year tend to have some turnback, so she and I met earlier this week. I'm happy to, get into questions, initially, but I just, I like to put this out as basically a snapshot, pre-audit, how things turned out. So, we've gone through this, we have some thoughts, we can talk about that further at a future meeting, but I always like to just kind of, when it's hot off the press, this is how the prior fiscal year closed out.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just had two questions. One is on the reserve fund. I mean, so that means nothing was spent there.
Correct.
I thought we took money for the library, air quality monitoring.
Let's see.
I think that's reflected there.
Oh, no, that's reflected here because one thing that makes the reserve fund difficult, at least for me and for non-accountants, at least in my experience, is when a reserve fund transfer is approved, it shows on the books as reducing the amount that was budgeted for the reserve fund and showing as increasing the budgeted line and where it would move to. There is a different report that Jenny can run, and that she runs, that is a variance ledger that basically shows those, it's a lengthier report.
Yeah.
So this is the one that I use, but she can run a different one that actually shows the money moving from here to there. So for instance, where the reserve fund was budgeted at, I believe, 50,000 for FY 25. So where it's showing at 35,358 allocated, that it would be whatever was actually budgeted minus that was the amount that was actually transferred.
Okay. Then my other question was on the emergency management. So like, less than 50% spent. What's the reason for that, or?
To be honest, my focus so far has been on the bigger dollar amounts rather than the percentages, so that's something I need to, work with. Unless you want to speak to that now.
And that was as far as what we spent out of the full budget.
That was the emergency management, so that was 9,600 on wages and 3,000 expenses.
Yeah, so every other year, we have graded exercises, so a lot more time and investment goes into that.
Okay.
I've been working on the way we utilize the grant too. When I met with Angus to talk with the budget, we were sort of saying, I would really like to stay the way it is right now, and we can develop that as we go forward. I think there's gonna be some changes at the state level too with funding, with NEMA and possible FEMA changes. So I think right now it's probably best to just keep it at that level.
Okay. Yeah, as Angus said, it's not a lot of money, but I was just struck by the percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, a few, the ones that are underspent, the ones that sort of get you quick was legal, it seems to be under by like 21,000.
It was, but as you recall, we were on track back in budgeting. And we kind of knew it was going to be trending under, and the direction for FY 26 was to keep it at that level. Because one thing that we did in FY 25, the actual incurred legal costs were right around 71. But because we were able to pay some of those expenses from non-operating budget lines, like the Sawmill Brook or the housing trust.
Yeah.
Or the PEG funds. So we've been, as you know, we allocate the costs. If there's a different source to hit than the operating budget, we do that. So the actual legal expenses were actually quite close to what was budgeted. We just were able to allocate the cost to different accounts.
And then two others I'll throw them both out at the same time. Firefighters' wages, that's under about 59,000.
That's always,
That's a variable, no.
It is, we budget conservatively. It comes up every year in budget cycle. We budget to make sure we have the coverage if we need it. Year after year, we turn money back. I think we've all agreed we'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So
The last one, which is the most impressive, I believe, is the health insurance.
yeah, there was a glitch in the formula. We did over budget health insurance in FY 25. We fixed that in the FY 26 cycle, but that's something that went back to something in the underlying formula. So, and we also, as you know, we carry a certain amount of contingency of about 50 to 60,000 that we carry above known expenses because of unknown employee turnover. But in addition to that, it was the retiree there was a flaw in the formula, so.
Thank you.
Ross, did you have any questions?
No.
Alright.
Yes, thanks.
Next item, I think the materials in the packet, speak for themselves. I think, this is a really good meeting Butch and I had with DOT. Turned out we were all in total alignment in terms of the, priority of a striker bar. There is, the open question as to this sign that I've got up on the screen here. It occurred to me as I was putting the packet together the other night, because this was under manager updates, not under action items, I think I would suggest that you take this up at a future meeting so that if anyone from the neighborhood is actively tracking it, that they see it on the agenda before you vote it. But, I would ask you at a future meeting to reconsider this third sign. Because they gave us a good explanation when we met with them on the 11th as to this being a regulatory sign and therefore enforceable, as opposed to the yellow signs, which are, guidelines, but not something that a ticket can be written over. And actually, on this topic, just in the last half hour, I happened to get a email from Paul Stedman. Just following up, he said he's been talking with the city of Haverhill, but an introductory meeting with Mayor Barrett, and he put out a couple of dates. So that's
Great.
looks like that's going to be moving pretty quickly to get the conversation going in a serious way on the idea of striker bars.
And did you get a response about the enforcement?
I sent did you see the note I sent, Chief? And did you see the email I sent you earlier today on the enforcement of this type of sign?
No, because I was out.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, so yeah, Wendy had asked whether, if a sign like this is installed, says, all vehicles over 12 must turn right. This is something your crew has the ability to enforce that, correct? You could write a ticket on
We
it.
do,
Yeah, okay.
I was just wondering because the weight limit and the height, some of those in the J break, those things can't be enforced by.
yeah, the
opposition.
J break was a safety device.
Yeah.
Classified to
Yeah.
feds, and that's a hard one to enforce.
All right, but this is under your normal.
Yeah, I mean, the town manager is correct with the appeal process, and once we issue a citation, everybody has the right to appeal it. They can certainly do some research and determine that a sign, may meet the rules or not. That happens, so. Be successful if you.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my, I had the understanding you could enforce it, but I wanted to make sure that I had that right, so.
I just want to make sure because we had voted to not have that there, but based on your conversation with DOT, it makes sense if it's an enforceable sign. We gotta
Right.
make sure it is actually enforceable.
Yeah.
Right,
As far as actually writing a ticket, that would be a scenario in which they either hit the bridge or drive onto the bridge and then realize and stop and back out.
no, it'd be just if they don't turn right.
Yeah.
So basically, if someone, didn't turn right and they went to the bridge, even if they tried to back, you could write them a ticket just for not following the sign.
We'll, when we pull up a commercial vehicle, we're gonna see their height, and then we'll make the determination to issue the citation.
Thanks.
So we'll keep you apprised on that. Next item on the invasives, we had a really good site visit earlier this week with a contractor. We went up Cherry Hill and briefly to Indian Hill. I put together just some brief photos just to kind of give you a flavor of what we saw, but I think it was really good. Good meeting. I want to really thank Butch and Paul, both of who provided quite a lot of leadership on this. Over the long term, but especially in the absence of conservation agent, it's been great to have both of them so closely involved. So yeah, we met with Brian Collin. We've had him under contract now for a couple of years, or ecological land management. It was very informative, a lot of good discussions about the impact of the woody invasives and how quickly those can kind of take over an area. I like this photo here where you know, it shows, I mean, it's a weed, but really it's a tree, like, you know, there's a point at which it's just, it obviously can't be handled by a mower, so. This speaks to the importance of, active, maintenance and management, so. There's a, you know, broader discussion to be had about, and I referenced this in my memo of. Getting to where we would have, kind of per property land management plans that would be, you know, eventually kind of, endorsed or blessed by the custodial entities, whether that's select board or Concom. That's obviously, you know, more of an aspirational thing, but I think, in the meantime, you know, we've got the highway, department doing what it does, and, we've got the support of ecological land management, and, I actually, so I referenced in the memo I'd written that I had invited a proposal. He actually sent me the proposal. It came into my inbox in the last half hour. I obviously haven't looked at it, so we'll have that on for a future,
Okay.
meeting, to get into some, specifics about, what he would recommend for the invasive, treatment. But one of my takeaways that I thought was quite interesting. There was a lot of discussion of this autumn olive, which is, particularly, kind of intractable. And, Patricia, was offering, I think, some really helpful suggestions of could there be a scenario where volunteers are coming in and cutting it? And then say the next day, the vendor comes in and treats it. And not only, I'm sorry, would that not work? But he said the treatment has to be essentially immediate. After it's cut, you have to then apply the herbicide. He said even 5 minutes is too long. And he used the analogy of, if you get a paper cut, is it still gonna be bleeding in 5 minutes? Like it, you know, kind of scabs over so quickly. So in order to really eradicate something like this, you know, it's a very, time intensive, resource intensive effort, because I mean, this is one part of one field, and you know, you can just start to, there's a lot of these, and so it's a matter of how to kind of coordinate resources between the, town staff, contracted support, and if there's volunteer support, that's terrific and very helpful, but it's gotta be, you know, how do you choreograph that for something like, you know, the autumn olive, for example, it's very difficult, and so if the town wanted, for instance, ecological land management to go in and really do this, they can do it, you know, and it's just a matter of resources and priorities, so. One of the other things that was talked about kind of, you know, briefly during the site visit was, other properties in town, such as the middle field at between Pipe Save and Mill Ponds, that has significant invasive issues, is not part of the scope of this one. So I think that's a bigger discussion that, you know, needs to continue as to, you know, how does the town want to allocate this? How aggressive do we want to be? And, I think really this is, you know, it's gonna be up to the board as to the, fall town meeting warrant, but, do you want to put funding to the voters this fall to get supplemental funding to expand the contract with the ELM for either additional properties or, you know, additional treatments on existing properties? There is existing money in the contract, so some of what's going on is already going on. That's all underway. But in terms of looking forward, this is something we need to be talking about for the fall town meeting, rather than next spring, so that we could plan accordingly. Especially if any additional properties were added that had any wetland resource areas, because that would require permitting. So.
So, was there any discussion about Riverbend, the question about that area that had been treated?
No, because we took so long at this, we actually did not get to Riverbend. That had been part of the plan,
Okay.
for Tuesday, but because it had been, I think it was, you know, going on 2.5 hours, and we just didn't have time to continue to, you know, so the way we left it, Brian is gonna be back in town in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So he's gonna let us know, and then, we'll meet at Riverbend
Okay, finished.
within a relatively short amount of time, so. And also Butch had to get back after about 2 hours, he had to come back for a meeting here, so we wanted to make sure he was part of that, River Bend tour as well. So, I don't know anything that,
Ross.
yeah,
Yeah, so I had read somewhere in the information that you had provided, that in some of these partials, there's other types of invasives that aren't woody invasives, which aren't part of his scope, but I was just wondering if possibly Butch could speak to, is there like a sense of futility with this effort, you know, like you knock down one and in comes another, especially whereas I read something gets carried in by wind. Do you ever get to a point where there's stability?
Well,
Yeah.
no, we just mow it. We have, we have equipment that'll handle it.
Yeah,
We did a section, we were trying to, looking at letting it go for a year and a half or 2 years without mowing.
yeah,
And we went for a year and a half, and I've got pictures where the growth is higher than track. So we've been able to keep up with it,
yeah.
and that's how we figure out the master plan. I think that's the way we should go, so we don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah. I'm just curious what kind of a money pit it is. I mean, I've been supportive of it because it seems like a good thing as far as preserving these assets, but it kind of reminds me of, the Emerald Dashboard thing, where like, it's not perfectly parallel to that, but you kind of, I don't know, sink money into it only to realize that it's not really sustainable in the long term, you know? So,
So perhaps if we treated the woody stuff and then Butcher's crew mowed it frequently enough to stop, the invasives from
right,
exceeding and spreading, maybe that's the longer term
right.
solution. Yeah. Okay. Chris, any questions?
let's see, pickleball courts, again, I think the memo in there kind of speaks for itself. One thing I did make an error in the memo, I think I had said the planning board hearing continues on the 29th. It's not, it's actually the 4th. I was thinking they were every 2 weeks, they're not, they're actually the, what is it, second and fourth Tuesday. So that was actually a great relief. I met with Jen Geary this afternoon, because I was hustling to come up with the signs and some of the things the planning board has asked for, and I had talked to Rich Williams, we talked on Monday, we talked again earlier today, and I was thinking this was all toward a meeting next Tuesday, and then I met with Jen this afternoon, she said, no, the meeting's not till the 4th, I'm like, oh, we have an extra week, so I called Rich and he was delighted, because we were gonna make the deadline, but I was gonna be here Saturday and so forth to do it, so I'll be here Saturday anyway, but not to work on this, so anyway, but it's so the planning board will continue on August 4th. Concom, I think, went very well when we were started the other night. With the planning board on the 4th and Concom on the 3rd, that means we'll need to keep Concom open, because I don't want one to close until they both close, but I think we've given Rich clear direction on some of the minor adjustments, and once we have that updated site plan, I'm hoping the meeting on August 4th will be very straightforward, and we'll see. Staffing updates, we have had, we conducted a number of additional interviews for conservation agent. We've arrived at 2 very promising finalists, and they will be interviewed early next week, and my expectation is we'll be moving to an offer by probably on Tuesday. So that's, help is on the way with conservation. With planning, we shortlisted, we've got 3 interviews scheduled next week, and Bardine, the chair, and I will conduct those interviews, and depending on how those go, there could be a second interview, or we could go direct to, or I could go direct to an offer. So depending on paper, we have really strong applicants, so we'll see how that goes.
Great.
And then some other updates, the LED streetlights, I think is going great. I definitely want to recognize and thank Chip Wallace and the Energy and Sustainability Committee. They've really kind of run with this and taken the direction the board set. We were in touch again earlier today, and I think that's very promising that could get done, in the relatively near term. And then I included this email that you may remember this one.
I got a kick out of this.
This was before Lass's time, but there was we get contacted by this very obscure federal agency, the US Board on Geographic Names, and, you know, we referred it to the Historical Commission, we referred it to
It's
NBPC,
a whole big thing.
a whole big thing, and they're like, no, it's not a pond.
A, it's not a pond, B, that name doesn't mean anything, so, yeah,
So,
perfect.
It was just my kid in Newbury bought with a project, wasn't it? He was working on to get it named.
I can't remember
I
how,
didn't know that, do you know that for a fact?
Oh, it was in the packet a while ago.
a while ago, yeah, I just don't remember.
I didn't
mean,
realize that
I just
was-
It sounded like it was a high school project and he went down the path of naming. We had questions and
Oh, I thought it was.
obviously the answers were what we thought.
All right, well, thank you for including that.
Yeah,
Lifting up.
closure, 'cause I know it was keeping me up at night. All right, that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
Yep.
All right, action items. Item A is a request for appointment to the Finance Committee for a one-year term. Gary Roberts. Would you like to say anything, Gary?
Gary Roberts, 17 Prospect Street. I've previously served on the finance committee and, the town manager wore me down and I agreed to a one-year term.
What if it's not a one-year term?
And, I'm not available.
All right, all right. Questions for
I
me?
can
Gary?
answer questions if you have them or, any concerns.
Okay.
No concerns. I was on FinCom with Gary, he's great, so I was thrilled and decided to do it again.
So we have a year to work on.
Soften him up a little.
You said,
I'll either get more serious or return to retirement. So
Okay, all right.
more serious means, but retirement sounds pretty good. And I appreciate your consideration.
Make a motion to appoint Gary Roberts in the FinCom for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026. Second.
All right, all in favor? Bye. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very
much. Have a good evening.
Item B is a presentation of opioid working group recommendations and request to authorize to expend funds. So either of you wanna make a presentation or say anything, or you want us to just go for what is included in it?
Or whatever you guys wanna do.
Okay. We may have some questions. Okay. Either of you have questions on this?
Not a question, but there's a lot of correspondence in here about, they had a speaker they wanted to bring in.
Mhm.
The question on the money on, I don't know. It seems to me that a speaker of that level is gonna get the kids' attention, and everybody's saying it's too much money to get spent in one place. And it is, but it's probably a pretty impactful option, so I know there's over. I don't even know who some of the people are on the emails. Winnie, somebody from a different
Those are
organization.
State consultants.
Okay, and I don't know what the obligation is, if you have to comply with their suggestions, or,
I don't think so, but I think we should take them seriously.
I think you can take them seriously,
Yeah.
if they're gonna disagree.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think if you take a person that's a Celtics player and bring him in for a presentation, the kids are actually gonna listen. Versus if it's local people just chirping in their ear, they probably don't listen to this. If you're gonna use the funds to educate on opioid, to me, that seems to be a pretty good use, so.
Did you get clarification on whether travel and so forth was included in that, Angus? I know you.
yeah, that was addressed and I think there's, footnote that it would be, that it would not, include things like, you know, travel or lodging. It would be essentially, I believe, like an honorarium or, that kind of thing.
So is the assumption that the same speaker would come back every 4
Not
years?
necessarily, we would continue with the working group. The idea is to get this first round going, see how it goes. If we decide after the speaker that he was not the appropriate one, we can always revisit since there is time between them to select another one. Also, you know, eventually things get outdated, so, you know, we wanna keep to the forefront of who would be the most appropriate speaker. It would not have to be the same one every year.
And our thought was after the speaker that we would do a survey to the people who did go see the talk and see how they felt about the speaker, whether it was effective or not. Like I said, the plan is if we do have one, at the middle high school, the superintendent, they would do the, send a survey out or make the students do the survey before they left. And then otherwise, if we do the nighttime for the adults, we would have a QR code that the adults could get right then and there and provide feedback of the speaker.
Were there other options aside from this those funds could have been used on, that you decided this would be more impactful? I mean, I think that was the state consultant's idea, that was like a lot of money to spend on one thing. I mean, did you consider other things? And
We did look through some of the things they said, one of the things that was said multiple times was the Safety First curriculum, which is a 13-week program. We discussed it at one of the working groups, that, the school superintendent was at. He did agree they get a lot of curriculum and their teachers do have a lot going on, and that he'd be happy to look through it and see if there were things to pick out of it that they could add. Trying to think what else we looked at.
But really, we went on the results of the survey.
I was wondering too, where if you do it at the school, it'll be at the high school, middle school.
Correct.
Is there any opportunity to share the cost with the other two
Well,
towns?
that was the plan. The speaker itself, the self display was $14,000.
yikes.
Oh, that's not represented here.
Well, no, because we correct, but our budget was to spend 5,000 towards a speaker, whether the other communities joined in, or we'll just get another speaker for the $5,000. So that's our budget. So the plan is the school is going to wants to contribute money towards the speaker. But we have to get this budget approved and then move forward, and if the school or Merrimack or the other communities don't join in, then we're gonna have to go with a lower cost speaker that we can afford with the budget of the 5,000. So right now, this budget is not picking a speaker, it's we're gonna spend these funds for a speaker.
What? 3 times that number because you're bringing the other town.
But they have to do this exercise as well. So if they don't follow through and do the exercises, then we may only have West Newbury's 5,000 in the school district. Whatever allotted, 4,000 or 5,000 they contribute, so we may have 10,000 put towards the speaker. For this first round, but our goal as the working group in this town is to use the 5,000 that we budgeted towards the speaker, whether it's. Put together with the school district, or we have to just find a speaker that would do it for 5,000 per member.
The meeting that I was at, the superintendent was there, and I thought he was saying that he thought we didn't need to spend so much money on a speaker, that they had other ones that were successful. That was the impression that.
Well, it was the assistant superintendent who brought us the contact and all the information for the Celtics player. So they had talked to them before, and then I think Justin said that when he was in other districts. I think he basically said you get what you paid for. And that's what I remember. Is there anything different, Rachel or Mike, if you were there, Justin might have said that when he heard.
Yeah, I was just struck by, it seemed like he was saying, oh, I don't know that we need to spend that much money, I've heard some really good speakers for like 2,000. But I wasn't there for the entire discussion, so I don't know.
But this budget we're presenting is just to spend the 5,000, up to 5,000 for a speaker, so if we get other communities, Merrimack, or the school district join in, then we could. Get someone different, otherwise we're gonna have to find a speaker within the budget.
Everything else is fine to me, I just have a little heartburn over that much money for speaker. Not even knowing that it was actually 15 years, like what are we paying for? I guess the notoriety of the profession.
And that speaker for the Celtics play, that was 2 talks, that was one during the day for the students, and then one night for, the parents and the community.
I wonder if the adults would be as swayed by the basketball experience as the kids. I mean, I understand the kids, they would think that was the whole, but I don't know, Boston, any thoughts?
If the other towns don't chip in, they still. See the benefit or the.
Yeah, they would see the benefit, because our survey reached out to obviously the Pawtuckets in West Newbury, so therefore that's really our community. And so, yes, the other towns would benefit, but it'd be really the students that would benefit. Or then the parents, but we have to look at it as a community approach, but if Merrimack said they're willing to, to contribute some funds, but if West Newbury's done all this work, Merrimack, and it's gonna have to do the same amount of work in order for them to contribute the funds. But the school district is willing to come up with a $4,000 or $5,000, they'll find some way to make it happen. So we might have to find a speaker for $10,000, $5,000 from West Newbury, $5,000 from the district in order to, have a good speaker if we wanna get someone, a big name speaker out there.
Where are Merrimack and Groveland in this process?
As far as I know, they haven't done anything. I think Groveland allocated the money to the DARE program, so there's no money there. And what I understand from Merrimack is that the select board says great idea, and they have to officially vote on it. The Board of Health does in August, I think August 4th or 5th, but they still have to do the whole exercise we did, the survey and all that before they release the money. We had a call with the state to see if we can just allow this, have the state allow Merrimack or Groveland just to release $5,000 of their budget. Just to put towards the community effort, and basically said, no, they have to go through the whole exercise.
So the survey is required.
Yes. So our plan is to get this budget approved, hopefully, and then we can start with the speaker for the seniors. Educational material, work on the Narcan stations, all that, and then the speaker, the Celtics player, that wouldn't be until, February, March of 2026, if we were able to get him, so we just gotta get this budget approved, so we can just start the process.
Is it possible to approve a partial budget?
Well, actually, that was my question, because I just saw this, the email from July 1st earlier today. I hadn't been copied on that initially, but their suggestion was to consider doing a first year funding as a foundation and then revisiting for subsequent years, which seems to make sense, where it's a new source of funds and essentially a new set of programs the town is would be offering. Seems like it would make sense to do a 1-year budget and then have the board revisit it.
So if we were to do a 1-year budget, I assume you would want to relook at this, or would you just go with 2025? What do you think?
So I think we should go 25, 26, just because we're.
You're talking calendar year.
Calendar year,
Oh,
yeah, because we're pretty close to 26. At least that we can get the foot off the ground, start spending some money that we have there and see where it brings us.
Well, do you or Rachel happen to know what the balance is right now?
The current balance was $10,023.09.
Great.
So is the 4-year concept for high school essentially?
Yes, to help keep making sure that all rotating classes get a chance.
I don't wanna like Monday morning quarterback, obviously you guys did a lot of great work here. I think my suggestion would be that once you understand the range of speakers you could get, to me, it would make sense rather than splurging for once every 4 years, maybe getting somebody more in the middle of the road and doing it every 2 years. 4 years is a long time to go between those things, especially if you miss it by 1 year and then you don't get it until you're a junior at that point. So that just might be some way to stretch it out. I do think that depends on, like, you guys gonna have to use some discretion about the speakers that you find.
So could we approve say a 1-year budget and just hold off on the speaker until, like, we know if Merrimack and Groveland are participating, and if you could do some more outreach to see what else is available? That'd be reasonable.
Yeah, it's the select board's fun, so yeah, we can, our plan is we gotta get something working, and then,
Right.
if we do have up to the 5,000 to spend for a speaker, then obviously we can bring it back to the select board. This is the speaker we wanna use. And see what the dates are, but like I said, the school district is willing to put in tribute money. They may even find more than what they had mentioned before if Merrimack does not, join in. But Merrimack seemed like they wanted to join in. They were willing, thought it was a great idea to contribute 5,000 for Merrimack, 5,000 for West Newbury, and 4,000 for the district to have the Celtics play. But I agree with Ross, but problem is, we're a small community with the same amount of work and survey work as everyone else, but we only get $10,000, and right now, there's communities that have $200,000 or $400,000 that are within, 20 miles from here, that just have a lot more money, we get 10,000. So we're trying to do the same amount of work and same, initiatives with a lot less money. But I do agree, if we could find someone every 2 years, I think we'd be better off, but again, like, Chris said, to get a well-known speaker, they're gonna, they'll understand it, and it's gonna relate a lot better than, someone that's just, unfortunately, grandfather to speaking with this a person, they're not gonna, what's going wrong, school, they don't listen. So it's a catch-22, we're trying to do the best we can with limited amount of funds, so I don't think there's a perfect answer for anything.
I would propose that we approve the 25 and 26 budget without the speaker, pending more research on the working group's part. What do you guys think about that?
You mean without the speaker per se?
Yeah, without the 5,000 for the speaker,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean, once these questions are resolved, and what the other towns are, it doesn't mean we can't go back next year, before the end of the budget, and just add that, I think.
Yeah. But at least it gets us started with the
Yeah,
process.
the other stuff, I think is really important to at least get that going.
I haven't done the math. Can we do like a quick sum if you don't have it of like what would be that dollar amount, just because that's
Okay,
what Jenny's gonna need to put into the accounting system is what's the dollar amount that's approved.
So it'd be the senior speaker still, right?
Yes,
So it'd be 5,760
Around 760.
for 25 and 26.
for 25 and 26 minus this, high school speaker.
Yeah, okay. I didn't introduce you, do you know Rachel?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm the Board of Health admin.
Oh, okay. She's been like the linchpin of this whole working group. Yep. Got a lot of work doing, yes, we should.
so I think in that spreadsheet, the last revision that Rachel submitted does have all those cumulative values.
Yeah.
On the spreadsheet, I don't know if Angus has that one up or not.
Yeah, so we would be looking for,
Oh, yeah, it's later in the packet, yeah, got it.
That one there.
Okay,
to
perfect.
approve 5760 for the 25 and 26 budget. And then have more work on the high school speaker. That's not good.
Motion, I'll second.
Is that my motion? Okay.
For the right numbers.
It wasn't intended as a motion, is there enough detail in there?
Close to me.
All right. Have a second? Did you second? All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Very good. Thank you. Both, all, for your
Yeah,
work.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, item C, consideration of whether to enter the regional health excellence intermunicipal agreement. So it's been a while since we discussed, actually, Ross wasn't on the board when we discussed this earlier. Do you feel like you have enough background on some of the packet, or do you have any questions before we start the conversation?
Not at the outset, I read the packet and I supposed to hang this for a little background, so yeah.
So I think maybe the way to do this is look at pros and cons. I mean, what do we feel are the pros of joining this alliance? I know Paul has said that he thinks it makes us a good neighbor.
Yeah, I think it'll make a good neighbor. I think it'll be beneficial for, the community. Since we last spoken, the Alliance has hired a regional inspector. They have hired a regional public health nurse. They're working on hiring a part-time administrative staff person for the organization. Their FY 26 budget and work plan has already been submitted to the DPH and approved. So I think we can make a good headway with it. Again, I think it's, I think it'll be a good decision for the town to join. I've attended a lot of the meetings that are all virtual. I've attended, some different Zoom trainings that were free, quite a few of those. So I think it would be beneficial for the town to join.
So that regional inspector that was hired, what would they do in West Newbury?
If they need to do any septic inspections, if for some reason I was, incapacitated, couldn't do the inspections, or if there's a conflict of interest. Whether it's a housing, a restaurant, food, or anything that my job entails, they would be able to come in. And we would just pick up the phone and send an email that we needed to come do an inspection for X, Y, and Z, and then they will come in, do the inspection, and then. That's the only involved, we only have to be involved as much as West Newbury needs them involved. They're not coming in here to doing our job, or my job, or Rachel's job, or anyone else's job, only if we ask them to, if we cannot do it.
So same with the health.
Health
nurse,
nurse,
we
like I
still-
said, right, if, Diane goes away on vacation for, 2 weeks or a month, then this regional public health nurse could come in and do the MAVEN disease surveillance at no cost to the town.
And how do we manage that now?
And she usually checks it while she's on vacation. I mean, she hasn't been gone for, more than a week or two, so she obviously, but again, if she goes out of the country. Then yes, we would need 4. The state would have, then it would fall back to the state will, if we don't follow up the disease, then the state looks at it and say, why is it, then they start reaching out to the town, why aren't you following up with this disease and all that, so the
So you
state.
would have to hire somebody if she was gone.
Correct.
2 months.
Correct, and this regional public health nurse, and the regional public health nurse we hired was heavily involved during the COVID clinics, where she was the other lead nurse with Diane during all the clinics. She used to work for me, report as their public health nurse, and then left towards the end of COVID, and so it was hired as a regional public health nurse. I'm sure she knows that all the communities as right now, so I think it'll be beneficial to the community.
Any,
Oh, how does the hiring work? Is that through Amesbury's like HR department?
Yeah, all things, yeah.
So they do like interviews? and
Interview,
offers,
they do,
all that.
offer letters, all that, all the retirements through Amesbury, everything's all through Amesbury. So there's no money transfer at West Newbury, there's no invoice to submit to West Newbury, everything just goes directly
So
to
if,
Amesbury.
so if, for instance, grant funding went away and one or more of the positions went away.
Yeah,
And someone filed like a unemployment claim, that would be Amesbury's.
Amesbury,
would be-
yes. That was all, I don't know, that's all been, back and forth emails in the past, but that's all Amesbury, all handled by their HR. They're basically employee. The housing in Amesbury, so they're all kind of an employee of Amesbury. They get an offer letter from Mayor of Amesbury on behalf of the Alliance. So I think there was actually 2 offer letters. One was from the mayor and one was from the Alliance itself. The group.
so do you know what, I mean, obviously, there's gotta be some incentive for the Alliance to have West Newbury join. I mean, what, are they getting additional funding?
They will get some additional fundings, based on the needs that we prepare, because we prior to all this, in order to grant, we had to do, surveys and submit documents or, housing inspections and order letters and, and then if someone looked at it, maybe an outside consultant looked at it to figure out what was missing from each town, where they needed to improve,
Mhm.
and then the allotment that the grant, the organization got was based on the needs of the communities.
So what were our needs, you know?
I don't know, I never looked at the final report, what the needs were. But again, obviously, we talked before that West Newbury's needs are gonna be a lot less than the other communities. But again, still gonna be a benefit, I think, to the community to have them, be able to help them if needed. But again, if we don't need them, then we could only use that regional inspector, public health nurse twice a year, but it would be there basically in a tool in the toolbox that we can grab at any time we need them to help out the community.
So I think we've talked about the downsides in the past. I mean, one I see is the 25-year commitment. How do you feel about that? That's a little concerning to me. It's a long time to commit future select boards and.
So that's one of my concerns last time and still is, but it intertwines with how you would exit the agreement if you wanted to. And that is would have to be a vote for the select board and the board of health. And even though it says there's no money involved, there's a statement, I was just trying to find it here, it said, and then you'll be given a bill for any expenses if you exit the agreement, so that kind of concerns me, if there's no If it's funded by grants, there's no cost, why is that phrase even in there?
Well, if you can find that phrase, I'll be happy to bring it back to
No
some
pressure.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Well, you don't have to bring it, you can find it later, but send me that
I'll
phrase.
sweat it out right now, fine.
Yeah.
And that was in the IMA, as I recall, yeah.
Then I can get clarification, what does this mean?
It's item number 12, withdrawal. Withdrawal requires the approval of the executive authority and the Board of Health. Upon such withdrawal, the shared services coordinator shall prepare a full statement of outstanding unpaid financial obligations under this agreement and present same to the terminating municipality for payment within 30 days thereafter.
So I
So
wonder how those expenses are determined.
if there's no
Yeah.
cost, then why the expenses? So that paragraph kind of bothers me, number one. And then number two is to have two boards have to approve it, where the select board pretty much is the approving board, so. I've talked to Paul about this on the side, he's going to the meetings, he's engaged on it, so I have a hard time saying no. So I guess my qualification would be, I would say if we approve it, to have a side agreement with the Board of Health, that if it came to the point where the town would exit this agreement, they would endorse the select board's vote.
But would that be binding though, if we sign an agreement that says that it's dependent on the Board of Health and?
Where did we find?
I don't know, I just. See this being a problem.
Again, I would just be concerned about it if at point the grant funding dries up and then there's an obligation for the town to commit monies every year.
I mean, I know that, town council has looked at this, KP has looked at this several times, for this town as well as the other communities.
Well, actually, so just to clear, that was actually gonna be, so when I was putting the materials together the other night and looking back at the prior minutes, just really partly to refresh my own memory, but also with respect to Ross being, not having been on the board, wanting for you to have kind of some of the background. What was actually before the board last fall was to authorize joint legal representation so KP could look at it. I'm very well aware they have looked at this IMA and approved it as the form for several other communities. We have not ever asked them our specific questions about it. We've asked Amesbury and they've said, oh, KP's approved it. And I know they have, that's not in question. But since the board didn't authorize joint legal representation on this matter, we have never engaged KP on this. Because unless the board authorizes that, we're not able to do that. So we know they've approved it as the form to other communities. We don't know what questions other communities have asked. So that might be something that if the board approved the joint legal representation, that would allow us to really have KP go through this and give us directly their advice rather than being told, indirectly that they've signed off on it for other communities, which I know they have. I know that to be a fact.
So on that note, the organization will pay for legal fees for this town to have KP review it. And that was several emails I can pull up, but they did say several times that, yes, this town they will pay for all legal fees to join them.
So basically, the boilerplate agreement's already been reviewed by KP, so it'd just be any specific questions that we have. I would put forward the question that I just presented, could we have an agreement with the select board, the Board of Health, as to how to exit this?
And I would also ask them to try to get straight answer on number 12. About the finances, that way I'm not chasing it down, that way if you get it directly from KP, they can search that out. And again, all those funds that KP charged town would be charged to Diane. Yeah.
Right, I think I still am not in favor of this. I fully support regionalized services, but only if all communities are benefiting. And I feel like we're just getting pulled along to increase the funding for the larger towns who do not have such a stellar health department and have more need, more restaurants, more need for inspections, which all we really have is, 2 restaurants in town, right? And the food market.
No, I would say you're 100% right, but this town will benefit, but not as much as the other
Yeah.
towns. So I would say we definitely will benefit, but not
But
as
not
much as,
62,000 or whatever
not as
and-
much as the other communities will benefit.
to be honest, I still have not recovered from the hard sell by that consultant.
Is he still involved?
maybe, but I haven't heard or seen them since you guys hollered at them, so I'm not quite sure.
All
But
right,
again, so I would encourage you to reach out to K and B,
yeah.
ask those questions, and then I will follow up tomorrow to make sure that the town will get reimbursed or.
I appreciate that, to me, that's not, you know. it's
But
not-
again, it seems like the state wants this to happen, so they're willing to
Yeah,
use their grant money to make it happen.
are we interested in getting legal opinion, or do we want to?
Well, my question, not interested, I'd like to know what Ross thinks. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I
if he's
mean,
not that
spot.
interested, then that's it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're the right person to ask the particulars about the IMA, and I don't wanna needle you if they should be going to KP, but like. After the grant, if after 3 years, the grant funding dries up. The coordinator and the nurse and these
Goes away.
folks automatically,
Automatic. Cause their job, their stipulation, and the contracts that they have with Aintree is all pending upon receiving the grants.
so if those folks are gone, what would the value of the alliance be?
The alliance would just dissolve.
Oh. Automatically without any votes or anything, and
As
just,
far as I know,
yeah, I suppose that. There would be no sense in Amesbury administrating it.
right, cause they're not getting money, cause they get 15% on top, off the top, or whatever percentage is off the top, so if there's no grant funding, then.
But I am interested to know if that's just like implied that it would dissolve, or if it automatically would dissolve, it would seem.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, read that out of the IMA, or if you guys do ask K and P, you can ask that directly that way. You're getting answered directly from first.
And the other language that stuck out to me is. It says in here under payment and funding, except for the 15% of grant program funding for administrative costs that Amesbury will retain. A municipality may draw on grant funds individually prior approval and. Omitting some of the language here just to get to the point. By submitting invoices to shared services for reimbursement funds for expenditures consistent with purposes, blah, blah, blah. Do you, know what that's talking about? As far as what kind of. Disbursements?
This is, yeah, this is one that begins with a 15%.
Yeah,
No,
it's just a mechanism, if we wanted to request funding to do something, we have to submit it to the, and have the shared services coordinator approve it. So I guess it could get turned down.
if we want to do a community only, allocation versus a regional approach, I would say yes. But again, if you're gonna reach out to, KP, then that we just add that question there too, if you're concerned about that one paragraph, we can, 4 different paragraphs by it. That way you guys can, that's what I would recommend, just so we can, put this to move this along or.
Yeah, I know it's been a long
Or,
time.
or bury it, so
Yeah,
I think just reach out to KP with any questions you have, and then we can come back and reconvene on it.
One thing on this, the question that Chris asked on section 12, which, and I'm just thinking out loud, but it's a kind of an informed speculation, and I think KP could resolve it, is, because implicit in this, and part of Chris, your concern is this prospect of kind of learning after the fact that the town has financial responsibilities and not necessarily having known on the front ends that those were being incurred. There's a basic premise in, municipal finance. You can't, the town can't incur costs, or a town, any town can't incur costs without the source of funding identified. That's why our contracts bear a stamp with the town account signature attesting to the availability of funds. I can't go sign a contract with a vendor for $10,000 without the town account saying, yes, that 10,000 is available, and then she encumbers the fund. So there should never be a scenario in a city or town where you learn about a bill after the fact, because you really couldn't properly incur that cost in the first place. I have to assume this entity as a public entity would be bound by the same types of limitations by the Department of Revenue. So for instance, if they're incurring a cost, whether that's a person's annual salary or whether that's a contract for services, someone on the accounting side, I assume the the finance department in Amesbury is encumbering those funds and saying, okay, that's spoken for, so it's not spent twice, and so it seems like they really couldn't commit funds beyond what they have in the bank, essentially through grant funds. But that's worth asking KP just to make sure, because that could kind of address Chris's question. And I had the same question, you know, a year or two ago when I was looking at this, is this idea of becoming aware after the fact of financial obligations is just not, you know, a good thing. It probably can't happen.
Yeah.
But the way this is worded, it's like weird. So it's definitely something we would wanna understand that. But I think what Chris suggested, if I do believe that would not be binding, I'm pretty certain of that. But if something like that could be agreed with the Board of Health, even as like a memorialized, even though it would not be legally binding, but it would be kind of the spirit of the agreement would be if in the future the select board wanted to get out of this, whether that's in 2, 3, 7, 17 years, that the Board of Health would honor that. That would address a lot of the concerns I have raised, because I think the 25 years is really, at the end of the day, one of the most significant concerns I had, because that's where some of these things that might seem theoretical or like, oh, that's really not gonna happen, or things like whether it's unemployment claims or wrongful termination suits and who's defending those, all these theoretical things probably won't ever happen. But over 25 years, that's a long time. So that 25 years has always been, has always given me pause on this.
So are we interested in getting clarification from KP before we decide, or are you guys interested in doing that?
I don't know. I mean, there's something here that talks about the financial benefit, you talked about some kind of licensure, that gets covered. Is it really a significant number? It's not much money, I mean,
it could be $1,000, $1,500 a year. Still money for,
well, we're already covering that.
Yeah.
You know,
correct, but it's still money that could go to somewhere else in the community. So I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, I think it's a benefit. Yes. Other towns are gonna benefit more from this IMA than West Newbury will, but it still benefits the community.
but if it's a benefit for $1,500 a year, that's not,
But I think it's just not, it's the benefit financially, but it's also a benefit, you know, work with the other communities. You know, being involved with them, because, you know, public health is no boundaries. We saw that with COVID, there's no boundaries. So we can't be in our own little silo here, we gotta, you know, work together. There's plenty of other agreements from public safety and, you know, everything else between, you know, mutual aid and agreements. Shared services between animal control officers and everything else, so it's. And again, I think there's, I don't know, I think there's only like 12 communities that don't belong to an IMA. 12 or 20, it's a very low number.
Well, if it was a different group, I would be more interested. That's my question.
But again,
Like,
it-
more towns more like West Newbury instead of, you know, Newburyport's not in it either. I don't know if you picked up from that. They opted not to join.
Oh, it's great, but
Yeah.
but the rest of the towns that are at the end of this IMA,
Yeah.
Georgetown, Groveland, Merrimack, they're all around us.
Yeah, Raleigh, Newbury, Aintree, Groveland, Merrimack.
So how do we need to move this along?
Well, I would suggest if there is a majority that wishes to do so, maybe the next step would be to take that action from last October or November to authorize joint legal representation. That would allow us to engage KP on this. It's not gonna be a lot. It's not gonna be much money. It's just an hour, a couple of hours of their time, I would think. Because it's all stuff they've vetted for other towns. It's just our specific questions. So if the board consented to joint legal representation for this matter and took that vote tonight, then we could get KP looking at the questions and come back at a future meeting with more clarity, and then you could make a.
Yeah, I'm just trying to discern you're even interested. in it.
Right.
So I'm not, or either of you, if you wanna do it, that's fine.
I see false commitment to it. And I sort of respect that. I'm concerned about a 25-year commitment. Without fully knowing how you would exit the agreement. KP could shed light on that, so. Refer to Ross and see what his thought is, whether we can go to KP.
Okay.
I agree that, course, I don't know you, Paul, but I've been informed that you've invested in it. Appreciate that, and I like the idea of being a good neighbor. But I just seems, just don't see any value, any real value added to some of this. Yeah, I just assumes. I feel like there's other opportunities to be a good neighbor in this.
Alright, so do you wanna motion then that we? What is the motion here that we define,
Are you bury it?
that's probably not a good legal language. That we decline to the entering the regional health excellence agreement, is that the proper way to? term it?
I think, and I mean, Maddie, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Jim always used to tell us you can't have a negative motion.
Okay.
So I would think that taking no action is. I know we want resolution and there's some benefit of having like that vote. But if, you know.
Make a
so I
motion
think
to join it and then. you
And
can vote
then
it
that's
down.
what you have done in the past is, yeah.
I'll make a motion to join the regional health excellent intermunicipal agreement.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Alright, are you abstaining, Chris? Alright, Paul.
Sit, it's all right, I can still sleep tonight, and I'll still be back tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Oh, there's the catch.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Paul.
Alright. Moving on to item D. Is a request to authorize payment of funds to the estate of Anthony J. Canatelli III. Pursuant to a court-approved settlement of litigation, Superior Court docket number 2577 CV 00578. Mr. Want to do a high level?
Sure, yeah, I can go through the kind of summary materials in here. So this was one of the most extraordinarily complex situations not only I've ever seen, but one of the attorneys involved who's been in practice for 50 years said he's never seen anything in his entire career like this. So
And can I say one thing before you start,
Yeah.
to preface it? This thing predates everybody in town.
I was
Where it
before
got
I was
messed up.
yeah.
That's the key thing you said. We want no, it got messed up many, many years ago, and nobody involved in town today, other than cleaning this thing up, had anything to do with it.
Thank you,
And
and that is correct.
And the one thing that people won't understand is that, when this first started, the numbers that they were looking for in settlements were totally different, so. Even
And
though,
higher,
even though, that's what I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
even though it's a very unpalatable resolution financially, it's significantly better than when we started, so I give Angus and his staff a lot of credit for resolving this as favorably as possible in a bad situation.
So the land in question is shown on the assessment map as R6-5. This is the locus, brief history, 1968, the Board of Assessors developed the town's first set of tax maps. They had engaged a vendor out of Maine that's actually still in business today, as they're very, but somehow there was an error made, and R6-5 was placed on the wrong side of Ash Street in that process. And these are hand-drawn maps where you can still see the 24/36 aerials. This is obviously way before. So the town, so that's 1968, 1975, this R6-5 was placed in tax title due to non-payment of taxes. Somehow it took 27 years for the land court to render a final judgment on the tax taking, but in 2002, land court issued a final judgment authorizing that tax taking. And the town has a document from the court saying the tax taking is approved. So the town, acting in good faith, believed it had title to the land. The town then sold the property at auction to Anthony and Donna Canatelli. And for the next 20 years, the Canatellis paid their taxes every year. In 2023, we were notified by the Department of Fish and Game that they believed that in fact they owned the parcel, not the Canatellis. It took quite a while to untangle this. A lot of title work and deed research, and the assessing department did amazing work, and town council and title attorneys kind of reviewed and validated all of that. But the town, through the extensive internal investigation, determined that Fish and Game's title, the claim to title of the property was valid. They had a valid claim. In other words, the town never owned the property and therefore could not have conveyed the property to the Canatellis. So recognizing that the town did not have title to the property and therefore could not have transferred it, the board has proposed a financial settlement with the Canatelli estate to make them whole for the amount they paid for the property, the taxes they have paid in the 20 years since, both adjusted for reasonable interest, and the direct legal costs they have incurred since this was first brought to their attention in August of last year. So some other pertinent information that help contribute to the complexity of the matter. Fish and Game had taken possession of this parcel from the United States government following the dissolution of the Parker Wildlife Refuge within West Newbury in the 1940s. That was part of a 17,000 acre preserve. Fish and Game had become aware of the ownership discrepancy following a federal audit of Fish and Game. So the feds were auditing Fish and Game, and it was only then in roughly 2023 that Fish and Game became aware that, oh, hey, we should own that property. That's when they brought it to our attention. So they were under federal audit. So select board and town manager engaged with the leadership of Fish and Game and their legal counsel to fully explore options for resolution. This culminated in a very high level meeting with the absolute senior leadership of that state agency with their legal counsel. And
Senator Tar.
I want to give real thanks to Senator Tar for the efforts he made to broker that meeting. We could not have gotten that attention as quickly as we did without his help. So we fully explored options for resolution. Since the ownership of the property came from a more extensive land transfer from the US government, federal funding is involved in the maintenance, care of the lands. Fish and Game cannot legally release the land to the Canatellis or work toward other creative solutions, such as could we swap other land? We explored all of that. The land is also subject to Article 97 protections, and as such, there are substantial and ultimately insurmountable obstacles in any kind of land swap. The lands that should have been marked as R6-5 in 1968 was deemed owner unknown by the Board of Assessors back 50 years ago, and an abutter later took possession of that lands through the land court. So this is the highly summary version. There's literally
It's good.
literally thousands of pages of documents, and this matter has consumed, I would hesitate to say how many hundreds of hours of staff time, including my time and Christian's time in the last 15 months, hundreds and hundreds.
And then on top of that, unfortunately, Mr. Canatelli died. The
Mr.
state
Canatelli,
became
yeah,
involved with other people chasing, and it became a legal quagmire that had to get
That's right.
unraveled as well, so.
yeah, now this is one of these things that comes up in the town of West Newbury and comes out of nowhere, and there you go, 500 or 600 hours of senior staff time, and people wonder why we're so busy.
So the bottom line is that the restitution, do you wanna just go over the?
Yes, yeah, so the financial settlement that was negotiated between the select board and the estate of Canatelli over the course of this spring was submitted to the court. The court in the last 2 weeks has approved that settlement amount, and or the settlement terms, not just the amount. And so there is a release here in the packet. I, Kathy Canatelli, personal representative of the estate, hereby acknowledge on payment of $210,756.65 as restitution and $5,280 for cost and legal fees. The judgment is paid in full and release all claims in the above matter and is discharged. Since putting this packet together on Tuesday, I have received a signed copy of this bearing Kathy Canatelli's signature. So the the agreement is done as approved by the court. But obviously to put a check, request through the AP warrant, I'm gonna need a vote on record of the select board to authorize payment. That would then be memorialized in something that the town clerk will prepare to attest to the vote. That would be clipped to the, check request, and, we can get this matter formally resolved.
And the funds would come from,
Unfortunately, yeah, it would come from essentially free cash. This is one of the very, very few instances under mass finance law where a town can write a check without an appropriation. In the instance of a court-approved settlement, you don't need to go to town meeting. In fact, a town council had in fact advised not to do that. Yeah, but the long and short of it is when free cash is certified in the fall, it would show about $216,000 less because of the payment.
Motion,
sure,
make a motion that we approve, the agreement for judgment. And authorize the town manager to, issue the check for $216,036.55 to the estate of Anthony J. Canatelli III to settle the property dispute on Ash Street.
Second.
I just had a question, Angus, on one of the prior slides, you showed that legal fees were $52.80, but this here says $5,000.
You gotta add them all up. It's entry fee of $275, cost of summons $5.
Okay, that's the
Legal fees
total
of
of five,
$5.
they just lumped it, okay.
Or just.
Yeah, there was, if you can, I guess if, you can bear with me 1 second, because there was something where there was a difference of about $130. And I had gotten let me just pull that aside, my system.
Makes sense.
I wanna make sure the amount is, so is the number that you referenced, is that the sum of these two items on the?
I broke it down with the sum of the four, to be honest.
Okay,
It's on the judgment page. But the legal cost is $5 for the summons, $275 for the entry fee, and $5,000 for the legal. That's the
52.80.
$52.80. Then you add the sum of $210,756.55.
All right. Any other discussion on this?
I just wanna make sure I get that amount right, because there was something, and this happened in, the second, I think this, second week of July where. Yeah, because the court amount was $210,506.55,
Ties in with that.
$275 for filing fee, $5 for summons, $5,000 for legal fees. Oh, yeah, so this is the number you said?
Yeah.
Perfect, okay, good.
And I
There
was
was something
verifying
where
that.
there was literally, it was about $130, and Jeff Blake emailed me back on July 7th. And he said, and I said, I'm not gonna bring that back, it was $130, so so as long as it matches this, good, okay, because there was something, and I think it might have been like that. To do with the filing fee, or there was some, it was very small. I mean,
All right,
I didn't, where the board had already, yeah, okay, good, thanks.
all right, all in favor?
Who made the second?
I did.
Great, thank you. Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
All right, so this is behind us, no?
This is,
All right, thank you, Angus, for all of your attention.
it's a lot, you all have put in a lot of time, and there's been a big effort,
Page back.
Oh.
Okay, item D, request for appointment.
Oh, I do wanna say,
Okay.
the Canatellis have been wonderful too.
I think that is good to say, yeah.
It's just, this was a horrible situation on top of a horrible situation for them on a personal level. They and their council have been incredibly gracious in how they've, yeah.
Thank you for being. All right, item E is a request for appointment as chief elections officer and an action town clerk. You have a motion? All right,
Do we appoint Amanda Ashton as the chief election officer?
Second.
any discussion? Okay. All right. 3-year, I'm sorry, confirmed date of fall special town meeting. I guess we've had that in the announcement, right?
We put the warrant closing date, we didn't, no, yeah, we didn't actually have,
Okay.
yeah, we think it's gonna be October 27th, but that hadn't been voted yet.
Any thoughts on that? You said you've already reserved, high school.
Yep,
That's typically when it is, the last Monday in October. That looks very good.
Yeah, you floated a date about a Monday or two, so.
Yeah.
did you vote it?
We didn't vote it yet.
Okay, yeah, I didn't-
20th or the 27th.
Right, yeah. Right,
So I plugged both, so
Okay,
it's fine to be.
good, all right.
Actually have, book hearing that day.
Mhm. Okay,
I can make it back in time though. Actually, I might not.
yeah, let's not, stress, how about the 20th, does it complicate things to make it a week sooner? We might have to close the warrant sooner, right?
No, I think with the warrant closing on, you're already ahead on the
Yeah.
warrant closing.
Does it have to be a
It's-
Monday?
Well, and that was part of, if Max was looking back at the minutes, and you talked about maybe a Saturday, maybe a Monday. So let me just see. I don't think, I mean, the only thing with a week earlier is it's just for the MBTA.
What about Tuesday, the 28th?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I could do Wednesday that week or any day the previous week or.
I mean, it could even be November 3rd.
Yeah, why don't we do that, and that can help with the MBTA. Does that work for us? That week?
Yes, that's.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sure that works for you, Angus?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, more time's always better.
Yeah,
I'm good.
all right. So do we need a motion on that, Angus?
I think it would be good, yeah.
Move that we choose the date of November 3rd for the fall town meeting.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And, would we assume a 7 PM start date, or do you,
We did 6, didn't
we
we?
like
did,
early.
but that was because we had like 50 more or
Might
60
go home
more.
earlier than later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that a problem?
did 6 work out?
The only thing I would say is for the for the October 27th. There was an issue with high school sports
Mhm.
where they were able to get us in at about 5:30 to start setting up, which is obviously fine for a 7 o'clock meeting. For a 6 o'clock meeting, it wouldn't be, so I think maybe you could say,
Time to be determined.
time to be determined, and then we'll work with Jonathan, and if we can get it at 6, that's great, I wanna make sure that we
Okay,
can
that sounds
have time
fine.
to set up,
All right,
great. Thank you.
and then so the question of whether or not the MBTA article will be on this or potentially a separate one is still to be determined.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be on this, I just don't see. But that's, you know, I'm open to
All right,
discussing that, but I think
well,
it's,
if we get an answer next week, then potentially it could be soon.
it could potentially be soon, yeah,
Okay.
you haven't forestalled that option.
Yeah, okay. All right, next item is the minutes from June 26th. I just had a couple of typo type things. Town manager updates, item A, there should be a slash between middle and high school in the second sentence of the paragraph.
Yep.
Item G, staffing updates, I think there's a period missing after resigned. So the town manager has
Got it.
resigned, Jennings, yeah.
Town planner issues.
And I do.
Just set the record straight.
On item, this is general discussion, item B on the open space and recreation plan. It should, instead of if the action plan is completed, it should say if the action plan is updated.
Yep.
By September. That was all I had. You me back you?
Already pre-reviewed.
No.
More than anything. No. Move to approve the minutes of June 26th as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay. General discussion, item A is update on the police department deployment and use of the speech, Chief Dwyer.
Thank you, I wanted to give you all an update on that, because we obviously, all of our departments get a lot of calls about speeding vehicles that we had on the district.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming for us to get a new and improved tool like that. The one we had initially was faulty, clunky, it was very difficult to get it loaded in the back of the truck, it was very difficult to deploy. This one is state of the art. It does a lot of things that we've yet to figure out how to actually do. But it's tow behind, runs on solar, has battery backup. So it's what we've been noticing is it's running a lot. It's just running better for us. Right now it's out on Indian Hill Street. I've directed my officers to deploy it on Maple Street. Anytime we get a call for any type of complaints, we all know how many cut throughs we have in town. We will find a location that you can park that for you. And soon we'll be able to get data off of it as well, which will help us better allocate my officers to different parts of the town that are seeing a spike in traffic, spike in speed. But usually it's just the commuter traffic that we're seeing first thing in the morning, late in the afternoon. Yeah,
So when you said it can report data, is it just numbers of vehicles and speed? It's not actually like taking a photo of the.
no, it's doing a count and it's calculating the speed and it's, the device is set on the speed limit. And we can set a wide variety of parameters, of, when it flashes. There's apparently a stealth mode, so it still captures data, but it conserves energy so that the batteries, will last at night. We're trying to put it in locations where that's not gonna interfere in a home. It's not gonna flash lights, right? But so far in Union Street, it's been helpful. I have oftentimes young passengers in my car that will see the speed that I'm traveling on a display and say, hey. So it does have a calming effect, but it's gonna be a big help to us. It's a great tool that wish we could have more of it, but
Let's start with one.
One's perfect.
Yeah, great. Any questions from either of you?
I was gonna ask about the data, just as you did, that was it, yeah.
Great.
I had one question, so the timing of this is really, kind of fortuitous with a public comment initially, Mr. Maswell, I believe. So one of the things, which he was aware of and is well correct on is the hoops that the state makes the town jump through on changing speed limits, the speed studies, we have to show average speed, 85th percentile and so forth. So my question, and this is something we can ask Paul Stedman at DOT, is would the state, like if you set it up for 24 hours or whatever, you're gonna have good data on volumes, on speeds, on percent, will the state accept that in a petition for like a speed limit survey? Because one of the things that, for the ones that we have tried to get done in the past, Church Street, Bridge Street, Chase Street, in each of those cases, Wayne was actually preparing those reports, which we were fortunate to have him on staff because he's actually a traffic engineer. So he was able to put in these numbers as a traffic engineer. A lot of times you'd have to engage someone to do this study. So my question we can ask DOT is, are they gonna recognize this data as official data for purposes of, for instance, a petition to change the speed limit on the local road, so.
And it is a calibrated device that we will have to make sure each year it gets inspected like all our other tools that are in our cruisers.
So hopefully the answer is yes.
Me too, yeah, I would agree, because I know the software we used for the older device did break it down very specifically. We just need to make sure that we're figuring it properly. But yeah.
So maybe, I'm sure I have the spec somewhere, because when you brought it forward for funding, I know we had all that, but not urgent, but at some point, just send me the specs, we can send them to Paul Stedman, I'll copy you on that, and just say, hey, because that would really make it less onerous to do that kind of study.
One last comment too, this was, when we got the trailer, this was all predicated on the discussion on Ash Street Swamp. I know Rick was the one who pushed for the trailer up.
Yeah,
So make sure to throw it out there every now and then.
and
So many other people
I wanna be
recommend it.
cautious putting it in places where there's not a lot of residential
Yeah.
population, because it is a device that.
Portable.
Or struck by other people, so it's gonna be important for us to make sure it's yeah, passed around through the town. Yeah, well,
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Chief.
thank you.
All right, item B is a proposed installation of posts and trail markers on Bridge Hill property. Oh, yes, it's you. Did you wanna make a presentation or just take questions?
Yeah, just take questions. The maps were submitted. So we've been fortunate to work with Steve Greason and, who did the maps and actually the trail markers. And, we're looking at, putting up AZAC board. So these are used in house trim boards. They weather really well. We've put, all of the colors onto the map, similar to what was on the last map. So the orange trails are new trails, that Steve, the one on the, east side of the map is really an existing trail, that we walked when we did a site walk. And then Steve really kind of expanded it. It would go all the way to Break Hill. It starts off with Georgetown, and it would be a beautiful addition. He also proposed the old ski trail. We're not ready to, it still has to go through the trail review and do submitting for that. But so we work on the green, the red, the blue and the yellow trails and get those updated. What we found, we need more maps on posts. So all of that is marked on the maps. So we need 14 trail maps, and behind the trail maps, that would be laminated, we would have map boards. And without the new trails, it's approximately 89 trail markers that we would need. And then we put in a budget for the trail posts, the nails, paint, screws. So
Are these pressure treated, the trail post, or what are you using for that?
most likely pressure treated. Yeah, it's what's out there now.
And you did review this with Molly, right, with Concom, make sure that the button issues, yeah. Good. One thing that I would note is the orange trail to the east, that's on Concom property, so that would be. Aside from the trail review checklist, that you would need to get permission from them, they have a custodial entity at that property. So then you would be looking for us to approve everything but the 2 orange trails.
Correct.
And request for funding to provide that. And I guess I don't recall when we were talking about the open space budget, where did we say the funds would come from, these kinds of things?
There's a couple of options, depending on the amount that, obviously, the select board has a professional technical services line. That's not a big budget line, I think it's $10,000, but that is there for things that come up. In addition, there is, for something, pretty modest, in cost, I think Public Works can absorb those expenses. So my thought would be, if the board's supportive of it, I obviously talk to Butch, but my thought is we'd probably allocate the cost there. It's not, the challenge isn't the money on something like this, it's really, just ensuring the board's approval of the work.
Does the installation?
We'll have a work day, that still needs to be worked out, but we'll be looking for volunteers.
No questions?
I don't know. When you, probably a year or so ago, somebody mentioned the trail from Georgetown Road.
Mhm.
And I went and found it, got lost in there and found my way over. Do you need trail markers? I mean, we have the GPS on our phone, I'm gonna support it, but why is everything? Need markers, it's sometimes kind of fun just to be out there and explore. Yeah.
So do you mean all of Break Hill or do you mean,
Yeah, Break Hill, you can find your way through there pretty easy. Already, I mean, I can. I don't know, just,
I think for most people it would be difficult.
I mean, I think the maps are helpful, you know? Oh,
all I know is like, when you go from Georgetown, it's very poorly marked, but with GPS, you can.
I mean,
find
the
your way.
new trail,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the orange trail, yeah.
yeah,
We just got in, I think. Oh, great.
yeah, let's, I just wanna make sure the board. Ross, did you have anything? Nope. No, okay. What is your,
It's fairly extensive and sometimes, I think, not obvious set of routes out there. I mean, I know most of the trails there, but I haven't really spent much time there for several years, but I have now a couple times in the last couple of years and sometimes it's not clear if something's just it's actually a trail or if it's just a herd path. And I think that marking trails has utility.
yeah, this, I would note, this is the top priority of the open space committee, they put this on a questionnaire for this coming year, so I mean, I think it's worth supporting. I mean, it's a very low cost approach, the number of trail markers is fairly limited compared to some we've seen, right? So,
I'm saying I will support, I enjoy the organic, find your own way a little more.
yeah,
Approach, so. That's just me.
all right, so I guess the motion would be to approve the installation of these trail markers in these locations on the select board.
Funding via the DPW.
Well, that,
Personally, I think leaving that out of the motion, because you will find the funding,
but I think the motion should be limited to, the trails that are on, property that the select board has custodial responsibility for, because all of the orange trail and part of the yellow is on a conservation commission.
Accept that as the motion.
Okay,
We'll second that.
I'm gonna have to be a little more formal in my suggestions if that's gonna happen. All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Right. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
yeah, and I just didn't want it on record, DPW, without me talking about
I
it.
know, that would be
It's
it.
$1,100, well, I think he can probably absorb it, but if he
We
can't, I'll-
removed that, a while ago, we talked about removing the funding on that, you said DPW had a budget for it.
Yeah, no, and I think I just haven't specifically talked to him about, because I didn't see this till Tuesday night when I was putting the packet together, so. I certainly haven't had time to talk to him about it.
Okay, item C is NDTA working group update. So, the group has been doing their work, we narrowed it down to 3 parcels, which I think we updated last time, those have been submitted to the state. Angus just gave you a copy of an email that, they had returned saying they understand the urgency of this and will do their best to get it turned around quickly. So, our meeting, the working group will present the results of the process at a meeting next Thursday night at 7. Save the date, notification went out, we'll do 2 more notifications, one at the end of this week and one maybe Tuesday next week. And the group sent out a notification to abutters of the 3 properties, within 300 feet. It's not a requirement, but we just felt like in the spirit of keeping people informed that was, the thing to do. So right now, we're contemplating holding it here just because having a remote or a hybrid meeting in the annex has been problematic in the past. So, but I think Rebecca said she reserved both, Angus just.
We
in
reserve
case.
both, yes.
Yeah, so. I think-
Well, and we reserve second floor hearing room.
Oh, that's right, yeah,
We actually reserved all 3. So.
the entire town office building, yeah. So. The intent is to make it as available to everybody that's interested and have good audience, so.
I mean, I think our thought, we talked about this Monday at the working group, because, obviously if more people were to attend than could fit in this room, that ends up being a real problem. So what I had floated, on Monday at the meeting was, in that scenario, we could direct overflow traffic to the second floor hearing room. The second floor, as you know, has this similar type Zoom setup, and that hearing room could zoom into this hearing room, and you'd need someone up there to moderate. I could do that, or someone else could do that, but the way that would play out, which would be messy, But I think if thought through ahead of time could be fine, is, you'd be chairing the meeting down here. And, if I was moderating up there, I'd have the hand raised and say, oh, Chairman, we have a person with a question, and it would, so they'd be virtually here. It wouldn't be ideal. I just don't wanna end up with a scenario next Thursday where if we have people out into the hall, we can't have the meeting. If you have a public meeting, you can't accommodate.
What's
the
the,
attendance.
with the annex?
It's just that the hybrid really, we did that with the Whittier meeting, we
Yeah.
did that with, it's not,
Well,
Now, when we did
we
it
got a lot of complaints.
with the planning,
From
with
the
the
public.
MBTA, the first meeting we did about the map, we got a lot of complaints from people online that they couldn't hear people in the audience and. So.
And we made every kind of effort with Adam and with the Owl and with Jim, and we made every effort to do the best we possibly, well, I won't say possibly, the best we could. The best we could, to make that work.
presentation, that worked well, but people had to go to the microphone, that was the difference.
No, there were some issues.
The page school, there were some significant issues.
That's what you said, I wasn't going through it, I thought it was great.
Oh,
I
okay.
responded to you on that, said I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
see the issues.
Oh, okay. I got your response, but I took it to mean that it was good enough.
No,
I
it
didn't.
was fine.
Oh, it was, okay.
It was, if somebody was in the audience having a question, most of the time you said, could you go to the microphone?
Right,
And they
right.
did, it was very
Once they
clear.
did that, it was fine, yeah.
So that's a,
Is there a cordless microphone option? I have some
So we
cordless.
actually, as a result of that page meeting, we have purchased cordless microphones, so.
I'd say do it in the annex and keep it simple that way, and if people really wanna be guaranteed to hear it, show up.
That's right,
I
yeah.
mean, it's old school.
Well, it is our meeting, so.
So between two floors of me, that, they did that once at, the school bus,
Yeah.
that was a disaster.
So good.
Do it
So
Andy's.
we've got a hold on all three rooms, just, so choice is yours.
What do you think? I just, the feel of the annex is, it's just a big room. But if we have a lot of people, then that would be. Optimum.
It's hard to gauge. I mean, there were over 100 mailings that went out that will probably be hitting mailboxes today or tomorrow. Many people may participate remotely. But if anywhere near to that or more showed up in person, obviously this room's not gonna cut it.
All right, so it's probably safer to do it.
Okay, we can get that set up.
All right, with the cordless mics.
Yep.
And just strict ground rules if you wanna talk to it, tonight.
Yeah,
Which it should be anyways, I
Right.
pushed the chirping from the audience down too.
Okay, great. There's also a couple articles in here, that one about Marblehead, I thought was quite interesting, they're serious, I mean,
Well, that was amazing, well, they
Yeah.
shot themselves in the foot on the one grant, and then they lost the federal grant, that's
Yeah.
a huge, that was.
They're still asking for leach rate.
but it doesn't sound promising.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, 4.6 million in grants there, that's a lot of money.
I will say, I mean, this is a total non sequitur, but in 2008 or so, or 7 or 8. I was a consultant at the town of Marblehead, to adopt a 40R smart growth zoning district in their town center, which, as everyone knows, is a exquisite, beautiful, historic town center. Town meeting adopted smart growth zoning. So that's where, like, I have real sympathy for them, because they've allowed as of right under smart growth zoning. So I understand, I mean, I can only imagine the people in Marblehead saying, it's not like we haven't done anything, like we've done things, we've taken tangible steps. That was a big deal to get as of right zoning. I forget the unit count, but it allowed hundreds and hundreds of units by right. This was 16 years ago. I can imagine the politics there of them saying to the state, like, we have as of right zoning.
yeah,
It's very frustrating.
They're an adjacent community too, they're not direct, there's no train that goes there, so.
Right, that's for sure. Yeah, Swampscott did a 40R back then too. I was a consultant as well.
all right, so next item is an update on the draft HPP. The planning board voted to endorse our addition of Brick Hill. Angus put the actual page in here, and it does stipulate that a smaller portion of town property. Not, I think Chris, we had concern about the whole property.
Don't do.
Yeah, I know.
So when you get, there's a, English chair you mentioned what,
Yeah, in fact, if I can ask Amanda to speak on that. I hadn't realized when you guys had taken this up last time that Ross is directed butter, so I asked Amanda as the town's ethics liaison to kind of opine on that, so.
Yes, so I would certainly encourage filling out a disclosure, because the disclosure is an appearance of a conflict of interest. Whether you actually have a conflict of interest or not, it's always great in filing one with one of my office. I can send you, there's all different forms, so I can send you that. I would advise you to call the attorney of the day, the ethics attorney, just to ask them. They don't let clerks call on behalf of other people. You have to say your own situation, and they'll give you advice on whether you can vote on the item or not. Personally, you could either abstain from a vote, or if you felt comfortable voting with a disclosure filed. Either one, I don't think is wrong.
But this would only be if this was the chosen part.
If that was the chosen person.
Yeah, so not for the HPP,
No,
not for this vote here. I mean, we already voted to.
Right.
Yeah.
yes, so I would say moving forward, so I would say to file disclosure immediately, because you're,
No, just for,
or just in general that you are in a butter to a property that could be, that is on the housing production plan, that could be considered as the final chosen MBTA spot. And that you're not using your location in any of your voting
Okay.
to make your decisions.
Email me.
Yes, yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's my mistake. I knew, obviously I know I'm close to Break Hill, but I actually didn't know I directly abutted. It's a very remote corner of my property, so that's a mistake.
so I knew, and it didn't occur to me that it would be a conflict, so.
Yeah, I just took
Yeah.
training, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Attention.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. Okay, anything else on that?
So just to be clear, where that was already voted by the board, and I understand that the meeting last Tuesday, planning board also voted it.
Yeah.
So it's just now I'll submit it to the state or we'll ask Ian to.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I mean, we did ask Ian this specifically, but on the housing authority configuration with the town lot in the middle, he said that did not need to be on the HPP.
He did say that.
Yeah, is it worth confirming that before we submit this, or?
Oh my gosh, we've been at this
I know.
HPP so long.
I know, or just if we had to revise it, I guess we could, but,
He was very clear on that,
okay.
that if it's housing authority land, it does not need to be.
No, I'm talking about the town-owned parking lot that connects the two.
Oh.
parcels.
Oh,
He's back from vacation, can I just reach out to him before you?
Sure.
submit This, just
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make sure,
yeah.
I just don't want that to be a last minute,
good, all right.
Okay, next item is, review of resident correspondence regarding the Board of Water Commissioners process about the water abatement. And so you have Irene here, hello. So what do you think?
It's a lot of water.
It is a lot of water.
See, lad, we saw the comment at the previous meeting. You didn't mention how much the bill was.
Yeah,
So-
I agree.
When I saw this, and then Angus and I were talking. My suggestion will be. If we could respectfully. Ask the Board of Water Commissioners to consider. Billing this person for the water. Volume used, but at the standard rate. Not at the conservation rate. Because there was no intent. To use excessive water. I think the intent of the conservation rate is to. Whether it's penalize or monetize people who decide to use excessive amounts of water. This was a pure unknown. It was corrected the instant they found out it was a problem. So I know we have no authority over the water board. I would just, like I said, respectfully ask them if they could consider something like that, or some fair and reasonable.
What do you think about the kind of the notification and the public, I mean, the process of this is?
I didn't want to get into that, but
Well, I
yes,
mean, it's really problematic.
it is.
What would you think about including those concerns in the letter?
One thing, if I could, and I'll just pull up the link, so I hadn't actually seen this until. I think it was actually earlier today, I had met with Jody. She had seen this on the agenda and approached me and just to understand what was going on, I told her all about it, so. Interestingly, if you go to their meeting minutes from June, the water commissioners looked at some surrounding town policies and will draft a policy that can be posted online and will be used for any abatement submissions. Bertrand will scan and send Newbury report abatement policy to the commissioner so they can use that as a template to draft their future policy, which she says she has since done so, or she did it immediately. So based on their June 10th meeting, it seems like they had kind of heard what I said a while back. So it seems like they're on a path to draft a policy. She did say today that at their meeting last week, which I was not able to attend, I was on vacation. There might be some backtracking on that. So I don't know. But like this was, to me, was this part of these minutes was promising. So I think if they do this, so maybe the letter could say, oh, we understand from your June 10th minutes, your intent to do this, we strongly, would strongly support making that a priority to get that done.
And so would that policy include like notifying the person and?
Yeah, I think I mean, my starting point, I would think theirs would be that town council opinion, which lays out very clearly what the steps need to be. And to make sure that's codified locally, and I can tell you at a staff level, at least speaking for herself, Jody felt very supportive that there ought to be a policy that she can point to and the residents can see, and so that we're not having to consult town council when this comes up. It's it shouldn't be that complicated.
Irene, would that be a satisfactory resolution if the commissioners agree to bill at the regular rate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What would the impact be on, we know approximately what
About
that's,
$3,000 is the delta between the conservation rate and the base rate. So it's still,
still an enormous bill.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you left, the hose on for 2 hours and it's, mildly depressing. My first thought when you presented it last time was. It's upsetting, but. There's obviously a cost associated with water, and in waiving it, we're asking, the town to subsidize it, but that's, to me, this is like a backbreaking number that merits, an exception. It's just, that's brutal, so.
Yeah, and at the regular rate, that is the cost of water. The conservation rate is above and beyond to discourage people from wasting water, so it's still, we're paying, or they would be paying for it, but it's not.
Water,
So
right.
that seems
Yeah,
like a
that's-
fair resolution.
The loss of expense, I think it's an exception.
And it sounds like they're installing meters so that they can read more frequently, so this kind of thing won't go on for 6 months before, we find out. The timing of it is kind of curious.
well, I think it seems pretty obvious to me that this incident has kind of.
Which is good, I mean, in the big picture, maybe not. Yeah. All right, so are we in agreement then to, Chris, I'm gonna sign it for you, would you draft this letter?
We could do it for you tomorrow.
Okay.
Assistance.
Thank you.
It'll be a recommendation of the board.
Yes.
To the.
Yeah.
A respectful request.
Yes, and say at the meeting last night, the board recommended that you honor this and.
I wouldn't say recommended, I would say request.
That you consider.
Recommend is a little too forceful.
Yeah.
You would consider it a personal favor.
It's an ethics then.
All right, well, that'd be great to draft that.
Yeah, I can send it to you.
All right, and so do we wanna wait till the next meeting to review it, or how do we wanna?
I would say I would say if you set the direction subject to wording to be. Refined with the town clerk's office, and then she can work with you each individually.
Okay.
I can draft the letter tomorrow, if I can forward it out to all of you, and if any of you have individual comments, just email me back privately, that is not a violation of open meeting law.
Okay.
And if you don't get the comments in tomorrow, Monday, get it on it.
Okay, great.
I did ask, Jody when their next meeting was, and, it's not gonna be till August 12th, so whether it gets out, yes, I mean,
Okay.
you know, it'll still be timely for their meeting.
Is there a way that they could get the materials for the meeting before? I mean, every time we've sent them something, they haven't even seen it at the meeting, so it's really not a good discussion. I mean, we don't have any control of that either, but maybe if we could just request that Jody distribute it before the meeting.
Yeah, well, it's not even her distributing it, it's them moving it. I mean, there have been times that we've sent materials to the water commission, I've sent it to them directly.
Yeah.
Directly by email, and the meeting has started, and the chair has said, oh. I'm looking at this now, like, hadn't looked at it, where it had been, it's like in your inbox. And the meeting's starting, and it was sent to you a week ago,
Okay,
and so it's not in my opinion, it's not a staff issue.
no, I didn't mean to imply
Yeah,
that, I just
yeah.
wondered if she could help, but it sounds like she already does.
Well, but I will reinforce that,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, great.
Thank you, that's very much appreciated.
Need to make a motion on it,
I don't know, this is a discussion item.
but if you're directing, another board, maybe to request.
All right, it's not an issue if it's not posted as an action item, no?
Make a motion that we have a man to draft a letter. To the Board of Water Commissioners to support an abatement. Irene Mahoney's property.
So,
All in favor?
I,
Thank you. All right, the next item is the Whittier Tech Building Committee. Is this just for information, or do we want to come up with a plan for how to appoint?
I think it's the latter, yeah.
Okay. I was curious in the form that was sent, that's what I recall is very specific, and so are they looking for that from each town?
No, that's what the district is gonna be submitting.
Okay, so they still want us to assign a person from our town.
Yeah, and Chris can elaborate perhaps from his memory, but we kind of asked that question at the last meeting of
Just submit.
how are they gonna square, let's say all 11 communities submitted an architect.
Right.
How are they, and basically Maureen Lynch kind of said, oh, they'll figure it out,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that was
Yeah.
my recollection.
Make the warm and fuzzy.
So,
I sent a list, I don't know if it was to you, I think it's a CC to 4 people I thought. For this committee.
Mhm.
So I don't
So
know.
we had talked about putting out a call. I almost feel like it'd be better for us to identify and then we
I don't think that's what you said last time, is let's identify and then
Yeah.
reach out.
Yeah.
That's why I sent following up in the meeting when it was to Angus and you.
Yeah.
List of 4 names.
Yeah.
Are you?
I think we had talked about it at the last meeting, but
Okay, I don't know. Again, I don't wanna go blurting out their name.
yeah, the last meeting, I worked the next day and Saturday before my week off, so it's possible I overlooked it.
Okay, no, again, it's,
So, because the
Okay.
last meeting was, it's wasn't that long ago.
so do we not want to say these in public? Is that why you're asking me?
well, it's broke, I haven't asked any of these people,
Yeah,
so,
all right, so you want to just reach out to,
do I don't,
no, I don't mean potentially.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm seeing it now, Chris, and I do remember seeing this, I opened this email on the 11th, I was trying to get out of town for a week and working on a lot of things, including on Saturday on my vacation week.
So what do you think, just an email to these people, or you feel like a personal line?
I think. Do we as a board endorse any or all?
I think if we're gonna discuss people, we can't be like discussing it.
Right, no, just conception, I mean,
Yeah,
what kind of person would you want up here?
I think either somebody familiar with construction. Or an architect. I think, providing those specific skills which are not as widely available as some of the other roles would be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're getting a lot of the general info. ones.
Yeah. So I think that, I guess that would all be in the same category. architecture, engineering, and or construction experience. So I think the person, one of the people you suggested is already on the school committee, so I'm not sure that would be a good.
Well, and when I sent the email to Angus, I said currently the representative, and
Yeah,
again, I think other choices possible.
yeah,
This one down.
okay. All right, so do we want to send it?
Do you want my input on this?
Yes, please.
Can I name names?
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, I think Brad Dorr was a great suggestion. I wonder if he would have the time.
Noted.
But I think it'd be a good call to make. Bruce Taylor, I don't know that person, but it says in your note, he's a retired architect, longtime resident. I think that someone who's, like Wendy said, an architect and experience with major building projects is really gonna fit the bill.
I was throw the third one out too then.
So is your
No.
thought to reach out to all three and?
I don't know, these are just people I thought would be
Yeah.
beneficial to the committee.
Yeah,
So
so do you know who's doing? I don't know.
generally, not.
All right. So let's make a decision here.
Well, I mean, what about the idea if each of you, well, I don't know. Do the others of you have suggestions? Do you want to try to?
The people, the ones I came up with.
Okay.
Oh, sure, I cheated the copy paper.
Reading over your shoulder. So the question was when to have to appoint someone. Your school committee's gotta get this all buttoned up by September 30th. They really need it earlier. That means they need our nomination of West Newbury's route. I would say before Labor Day. I know there was a date discussed at the meeting you and I were at. I don't recall exactly what
They
it
want
was,
it fairly quick.
but I think it was like right around the end of August, early September. If we got them our name, that would be timely. I think sooner would always be better for them. I'm sure they would appreciate the lead time.
Do you think we could get it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yeah, if there's someone who you guys identify that you'd like to reach out to and recruit, and if they're willing to serve. Yeah.
So is it an email from the select board address appropriate, or do you think a personal?
So I think that's very appropriate.
All right. All right, I'll do that.
Personally, I might pick up the phone.
Yeah. I'm
It's harder for people to, like, an email, they will think about it and then say no. If you get them on the phone, you might get them at a moment where they're feeling less busy and say, oh, yeah, and here's that's how I got Gary Roberts. If I had just emailed Gary, he would have given me a hard no, but I called him up, I said, hey, Gary, I miss working with you, which is true.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I think recruitment is in order because it's such a high stakes thing, high profile thing, and a major time commitment that someone's gonna need to make for this. That's just my.
Chris, can you take this on? Please. You recommend these people, you know
I
them?
don't like any of them. I mean, I don't even, I can deal with it, yeah.
I mean, you're on the school, you're on the group, so, right? You have the most direct knowledge. Thank you for volunteering. All right, so would you be able to do this by the next meeting in 2 weeks so that we can, if they're willing, have them in for a discussion? Okay, I can see I'm gonna pay for this.
We can have Max assist,
Okay,
Max, do what?
assist if needed, just so we can.
Just have to find out contact info, so
is that something that's been helpful? Okay.
I get it, all right.
All right. All right, the next item is a review of the MVP grant scope. So we had talked about hiring Horsley Witten to do this. And Angus and I had a conversation with Ellie Baker, who is one of their consultants. And we kind of generally talked about different approaches, and then because of the schedule, I went ahead and proposed that we would take the first cut at revising the scope and then she would review it. So what you have here is her response to that, the memo, and then also the revised scope with her comments is also included in the packet. Essentially, instead of doing the entire road, it's focusing on the 3 priority areas that were identified in the prior grant work. The other thing is that the non-consultant tasks like the new shoreline technical group and some of the other projects were eliminated to try to streamline it. Also because when the consultant was not directly responsible for them, there was potential for increased management costs. That was the thinking. And she actually suggested eliminating a couple more here in the comments. I think the other comment that was interesting is instead of having subtasks is grouping, same content, but making it one task. And that would make the management of it more streamlined, which I think is an interesting perspective. Having been through the grant process and implementation, she has some background in that. So I don't know if you have any comments or thoughts on this. We are kind of down to the wire here. I would expect that will be.
What's my first question? What's the status of the grant? It's gonna be June award.
Yeah,
Yeah, they haven't, we knew it wasn't gonna be June 30th, we've known, I mean, they've been saying it would, but we've known, because there's no way, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I did ask, we had a regional mayor's managers meeting with MVPC about a week ago, or a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and one of the topics was sustainability, and there was some discussion about MVP grants, and as part of that, I asked, have any of the other communities or has MVPC heard anything about the timeline? And there's no one had any kind of inside information other than they had said June 30th, and it hasn't been. But
do you recall the last round?
well, the last rounds they had, I know it was August that we were having the meeting with the administrator, the Zoom meeting to kind of talk about scope. I don't remember when that award was. Yeah. And then it was not until I think late September or even later before it was actually under contract.
So to me, the next step here would be, the schedule B, which is the, or attachment B, which is the schedule. It would be interesting to see, having reduced scope by this document, what impact that has on the schedule and the staff costs associated with it. So if we're interested in doing that, we could ask Forsley Went to do that for us, and then that would really get at the management costs for the town employees. That would be my recommendation as the next step, if you are both satisfied with the revisions in the grant.
And what about the overall survey of the whole program? That was one thing you said could be incorporated.
Well, but what's the point of doing that if you're not gonna do the additional work?
To define what the entire project is gonna encompass over time. At some point, it's gonna have to get done.
Right,
So if there's
So-
sufficient grant funds there, why not? It doesn't, in fact, they said, that's not a whole lot of staff time in the town there, so that's a big chunk of the money.
mhm.
Rather than just let that float away.
I think when we discussed it with Ellie, the thought was if you're gonna propose revising the scope, you kind of have to have a reason why, and to focus it around, tailoring it more towards the result of the prior grant round, that's kind of a defensible position. But if we say, yeah, we're gonna do that, but we also wanna do just the survey on the entire road, it's less.
That's a legitimate step forward in the next part of the process. And if the funding is there and look to award that, then I think that those should be negotiated within it if it can be.
So we would just amend that task.
If possible, yeah.
So that would be task, just the survey.
Correct. And again, it depends how much you get on grant too.
Ross, do you have any thoughts on it? Or any other things that you think should not have been cut, or that we should still?
No, I think it's good. I mean, you provided her the direction of focusing on 3 areas, right?
That was what we discussed
Yeah.
when we had our meeting, and she thought that was a worthwhile way to go, so then.
So what, yeah, but did she actually, and I read through it, but did she, like, her focus was predominantly on like the administrative side, like condensing the tasks and things of that nature, right? She didn't actually alter like the physical scope of work much, or,
She just made some comments on additional things that could be changed
okay,
and reviewed, so she reviewed this proposed scope. Against. The plan from, or the report from 2024 from the prior round to see if it made sense to focus it this way.
okay.
And she agreed that it did. And then she also had these other recommendations, like the library thing. She said, if you're gonna leave it in, to better tie it to, how that's gonna benefit the overall project, or just, she thought they could be deleted. The other one that I thought was interesting is the, in the year two. Combining two of the tasks, so that we're not having iterations of review and, that was task 12 through 13, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good comment as well. So, I mean, I think if we could say to her, yeah, we like your comments, go ahead and incorporate those, and then also come up with a schedule for us, and if she could do costs as well, I think that'd be really beneficial if we're gonna negotiate the scope, to know what we're looking at in terms of cost. And we can ask you to consider the entire road, so that we can see the impact of that. Chris, if you want to keep that in.
Again, I think if it can be without significant staff time consumed, it would be a great way to maintain as much of the grant as you could.
Could we make some comments?
Yeah, if I just want to finish up our conversation.
Yeah, good with that, though, I think. We're looking to validate the decision to take a more targeted approach, and so I'm still on board with that.
So in terms of next steps, having her incorporate what she suggested in the schedule and the cost as a reasonable, I mean, this was not very much of her time, so we still have plenty of money to do that.
Yeah, now, does she have something to work from that has the the estimated town resources?
Well, so we can share that, the attachments to the grant application, I didn't give to her because I didn't have them.
Well, it's funny, because when I saw in her response that she didn't have the Schedule B, but I had sent the complete submittal, but I think I did, but I think I sent it as a whole, as a PDF.
Yeah,
So what I need to do is send her that Excel document so she can really, manipulate that. There were some, there were some hidden columns on that and things up, because part of the, challenge of getting the budget document together, in that last, week or so, was we had gotten estimated budget numbers from 4 different vendors. So there's like columns off to the side where there were the different numbers from the different vendors, and then Christine and I were kind of putting that into, like, basically picking what made the most sense, or what seemed to be like the midpoint or whatever. So the Excel document, there's like hidden columns that weren't part of what was sent to the state, but so it's a little messy, but she's fully able to deal with complexity, so we would just send that off.
I mean, it'd be nice for her to give us an objective, because the 4 consultants, the costs were like widely apart.
Correct.
So
That's
I would
correct.
almost rather not provide those.
Yeah, no, so I guess that'll just be, I'll just need to kind of, either me or I'll have, see if Christine can just kind of clear that stuff out and only send a clean file, which was the same that was visible in the PDF document, and not have the, hidden columns.
Okay. Liz, do you wanna?
Yeah. Well, first, if you're revising, this isn't working, if you're revising this scope. Prior to seeing what the state is giving you in terms of the grant and what elements of the application they favored. You might be back at this again, because there may be things in there that they should the town be awarded the grant. They awarded because they were in there, for example, the living shoreline. Also, the living shoreline is happening, whether or not the town
it's a separate
Yeah.
group, they're already meeting, so jettisoning it from the grant, I just want to make you aware that that group is meeting and developing alternatives. And I think the state will be interested in that, so that's remains to be seen, you know, should we get the grant, whether the state said, yeah, you got a lot of points because of that living shoreline aspect of your grant. So this exercise with Horsley Witten is kind of happening separate from seeing what the state would actually give us points for in terms of the grant application. Also, we had a couple of discussions already about the 3 priority areas and why that is not the basis for the next phase of work, why comprehensive assessment of some nature of the road needs to be done in terms of sequencing projects. So I can appreciate that, you know, based on a quick review by Horsley Witten, they said, yeah, that makes sense, but it leaves out of the conversation all of the reasoning that went into getting a comprehensive baseline for that road. And you've also left out in this whole process, the benefit of the committee that put a lot of thought into why that was, and that was based on Christine's recommendation that we approach it that way. So not only is the CCRC kind of not invited into this conversation at this point, but you've also left out your DPW project manager. She was the one who had recommended the comprehensive approach. So this just is hard to get my head around why you'd have a group of people that have put this effort into putting this grant application together and wouldn't take the time, whether it be one meeting at this point, to sit down and say, hey, here's a revised scope. What are your thoughts about it? You're just kind of moving forward as if that whole participation in developing the original application didn't happen. And all the expertise that's on the committee and with your own DPW project manager, that's not being considered at this juncture. So I just find that unfortunate. As well as kind of hearing about this, you know, without even being sent the copy of the scope for our consideration. So it sounds like you want to move forward and talk about next steps, but I think one, that you haven't heard back from the state yet, it seems premature to be narrowing the scope even further because you don't know what they'll favor in that grant application. And then 2, I think it's really unfortunate how you kind of left us out of this process.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think we had 2 joint meetings kind of to discuss it and we talked about wanting to phase it and there was really no movement on the part of the committee to meet us anywhere, but where you thought we should be. I mean, that was the whole point of those meetings we had.
And the discussion was the same as what I just stated.
Right.
In that it's premature to be making cuts to the scope of the grant until you see what the state is supporting in the grant. We put it in an application, they're going to score it based on the contents of that application. And I know you want to get your arms around it in terms of the meeting that comes next when you say, look, we're concerned about how to manage this. Whether we're biting off more than we can chew, we'd like to look at ways to cut this back, but cutting back something that may be what made them interested in the grant in the first place doesn't make sense to me in terms of the timing. So when we had these previous discussions, that was the point I made and others made, that it's premature to do this.
But will we have time to do it? If I guess our point is we don't want to wait till we're awarding the grant and then try to grapple with this. We are.
Well, I think this seemed useful in terms of everyone becoming more familiar with it. But so, you know, that much further to being prepared for a discussion with the state, so that's helpful. But the leap to focus on the 3 project areas when the prior discussion was even from Christine was, there are reasons why not to do that. And in fact, in our meeting initially with the state, when we talked about a comprehensive baseline, they said that is what you need. So, you know, the CCRC spent time taking that last year's report and then working with the town and Christine on on the approach. And it was concluded that those three focus areas are not the end of the story, that
No,
we really need
absolutely
a
not.
comprehensive baseline.
Yeah.
And, but the direction given to Horsley Witten was go focus on those three project areas. That seems to be ignoring all of the prior conversation that we had.
Yeah, so I think our intent is to start there and have a, you know, if we're awarded the grant, we'll have something that we can manage successfully. We don't wanna just get the grant, like do anything that's needed to get the grant. We wanna do what makes sense for the town and what the town can absorb management wise. So I think you're coming at it from a different place than.
Well, I'm coming at it from the state's gonna say, we gave you X points for public participation. We gave you X points for regional approach. And you've eliminated those things. That's really going to change the conversation.
Yeah.
It could, but it hasn't yet, because we haven't eliminated it, we're just doing homework. You know, I mean, we approved the grant. With the understanding that we wanted the ability to negotiate it as we saw fit. That was the basis of us approving that, so. I don't personally see why it's problematic for us to be preparing for that possibility. I mean, I took Christine's input in the process as, in a perfect world, this is what you would do, right? In a world that doesn't have constraints, this is the best way to approach this problem. But I think that we're evaluating the problem within the constraints of the town's resources. And trying to prepare ourselves for maybe walking before we run. I can't personally see how fixing 3 problem areas first, learning some lessons, and then focusing on the other parts of the road. I can't convince myself that that's not progress.
The reason why that isn't. That seems like it would make sense, but the reason is because if you invest in these 3 areas. And then the problem develops in the area in between, you've just lost on those investments. So a comprehensive evaluation of what's this road's future and what are the options? You need the comprehensive set of information before you can do that. So those, you know, raising part of the road here when this part 10 years later is now underwater, you will have wasted that money. So that's why focusing just on those 3 areas, it seems, I understand the attraction to that, but that isn't after a lot of looking into it, the approach that makes sense. And Christine, if Christine were here, she'd probably be more articulate on describing that, but that didn't come from us, that came from Christine after looking at this.
Don't agree that you can't design a solution for 3 problem areas that wouldn't be totally useless in context of the entire roadway. I mean, Mass DOT does localized repairs to their roadways every day of the week. You know, you don't always have it's not always reasonable to address the entire problem all at once.
I think we're talking about. I mean, without the specifics of it, it's just a difficult thing to talk about, but I don't think you wanna not get the baseline information for the road at this stage. I don't think that's ever gonna be something that's not gonna be of value to the town.
But that was
So-
Chris's point, is that we should at least request to get the full baseline data
The survey.
and the survey. Right, that was what Chris said, so we're not at the point where we're actually paring back the grant, we're just getting prepared to have the conversations. Right, so I can't understand why that's problematic. This is just part of the process.
It's understood. I just think. I think when we talked last about the CCRC and its role and there was a lot of conversation about the importance of good communication and then to have this kind of put out there without even inviting us in to comment on it just seems contrary to that previous discussion. And it's just a little, it's also given how much time we all put into the initial application that is putting us in a position now to potentially get this money. That just, that just doesn't seem appropriate way to proceed with respect to the committee or on the project.
Wendy, if I could just, one, so this was received, what, around 5 p.m. on Tuesday, like 48 hours ago. Just so you know, it wasn't like we haven't been sitting on this, it was posted to the web by
But
midnight
the request to do it and the direction given to Horsley Witten and all of that, that's something that was not shared with us.
I think we did share that. That was discussed as our intent, was to focus on the 3 areas. I mean, that was clearly stated.
No, I know Wendy, that you had said that.
Yeah.
And then there was always the discussion about why that didn't make sense.
But Ross also stated he viewed it as a way to like, let's get our feet wet and try it, see how things go, see what we can learn before we apply this to the entire road. I mean, that comment was made as well.
It just seems like, I'm sorry, but it seems like you're all coming in and just replacing all the work we did with a lot less due consideration than we put into the process. And that just doesn't seem like an advisable way to go.
Yeah. I guess from our point of view, we're tasked with managing town resources and you did all that work without really including us or getting our opinion or, so it's a little bit difficult.
No, we were working directly with Angus on that. We were working.
I went to the meetings I had time to go to.
Yeah.
We are juggling a lot. I worked 17 hours on Tuesday, like. We are doing the best we can. We are working around the clock. Wendy is at meetings 4 nights a week. So I contributed as much as I could, but I can't when I received the draft narratives, it was, I forget the exact time sequence. It was like less than 2 weeks, or I'm sorry, it was less than a week before the grant was due. That was the first time I received the narratives. It was Monday when the grant was due Friday. And I was trying to put that together for the boards for Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean.
We've been under duress every step of the way, and not just in these last couple of months, in these last, like the entire time for years. We're up against it
Having to
time-wise.
participate your meetings is not the same thing as engaging the board, getting board input and buying into the process, so. I don't know if we want to rehash all of this. I mean, our intent was clear that we agreed to not withdraw the grant with the understanding that we, the select board, would negotiate the grant if received. So this is a logical next step for us to figure out what is it that we are willing to accept and commit town resources to and what we don't want to. So, I don't think that we've done anything, unfair or, not considering the committee's point of view. I think this is what we need to do for due diligence to make sure we're prepared. And once we come to an agreement, I think it's a logical thing to meet with the committee and discuss what our, what our approach would be. But right now, we're still trying to figure that out.
I'm a little surprised by it too, because at the time. I think I know you wanted to vote against submitting the grant. And I was the one who suggested trying to revise the scope to salvage, and I thought the process was clear at this point. And that was part of the motion, that the select board would. Come up with a scope that they could work with the state to revise on, so I don't know why it's a surprise. It may be a disappointment, but the town only has so much. capability of staff. That's what we're trying to accommodate. It's not just this one committee. Angus and his staff deal with dozens of committees and dozens of demands every day. And it's just a balancing act that we're trying to make work. I mean, the other option would have just been to vote down and say, don't submit the grant. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get what we can out of it. And I thought we're more on the same page than what I'm hearing right now. So I'm a little disappointed, as are you.
All right, so I think we should move forward as discussed, and once we have something from Horsley Witten, I think having a joint meeting is a great idea. So I would propose moving forward like that, but I do think we need to get going, continue to push this along so that we're prepared. Once we do receive notification. Sound like fine? All right. All right, thank you for being here. Appreciate your input. Next item is a discussion of the library expansion feasibility study. So this is moving ahead. We have a pretty much final draft of the scope. This is going to be distributed to relevant other boards and committees to get their input. I guess what I just wanted to run by this board is, we're contemplating shared funding for this between the Board of Library Trustees and the town in the form of a warrant article. But there is some discussion about how this project would actually be run, whether it would be, I don't think we can have town staff do it, whether it would be a different group of people. I know the Board of Library Trustees indicated that they would be wanting to run this project, so just want to make you aware that there is some tension there and see if you had any input as to how this project should run. I mean, right now, we're not contemplating including the town hall in any of this feasibility study. It's going to be focused on the library footprint, on that side of the street, so.
It's the magnitude of the number.
For the feasibility study?
No, the project.
Oh, I don't know, that's why we're doing the feasibility study, 60 to 90,000, I think, is that where?
For the study.
The feasibility study.
Yeah, but that's, just to be clear, that's kind of
Yeah, that's,
it's more than a guesstimate. I think that would be understating it, but it's not something that's been like sent to prospective vendors. The whole point of the exercise is to arrive at a scope that the working group feels is fully responsive, and then to shop that around and say, is this a $50,000 study? Is it a $100,000 study? I think 60 to 90 is probably a very realistic estimate for the level of effort. But that's all work that's going to continue in the coming weeks, leading toward a fall town meeting warrant article, is to get to that number. And then in terms of the work, part of the draft scope includes explicitly looking at multiple scenarios, multiple and copying them out. And that could be, it includes looking at everything from reconfiguration of existing space, renovation within the existing footprint, more substantial renovation or expansion, and to make sure that that kind of continuum of outcomes is all kind of looked at within the study.
one potential concern, or one concern that I have is that what's being proposed in the scope by the library is like everything they want, meeting rooms, kitchen space, a maker space. I mean, they're all like interesting things, but it's all based on how they see the library's role in community being in the future. Those things aren't laid out in their strategic plan. So I feel like there's gonna be pushback by people that aren't, big library proponents. So just wanted to make you aware, there's probably gonna be some tension on this as to who's taking the lead and what is the feedback gonna be from the community at
So
town
it's a
meeting.
multi-million-dollar project.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So for them to just try and run it, it's not gonna go well. You've got to get community engagement, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, Angus and I have been kind of pushing that and trying to make it, more neutral and not just library focused, but, I think it is gonna be a challenge, because they have a lot of money and people are gonna say, well, why are we contributing? If we're not having a direct, say in what's needed or what the library future looks like. So,
Is that, does the library get a lot of traffic and usage, or?
For the size of the town, it is, but I mean, other towns use it as well. It's a really good library. There's statistics in the scope or in the cover letter for the scope that you'll see. So it will come to this board for comment. So just giving you an update of where we are and.
Yeah.
I have I'm sorry, when I was in Linfield, we actually had two different proposals for libraries that went before a town meeting. One of them was a $43 million brand new library on one of the golf courses. That failed. They brought back a $20 million one, I believe. That also failed.
That for a brand new one, or is that an expansion or?
The second one was an expansion and a renovation.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of advertising and making sure what's needed
Yeah.
before we put it out.
Yeah.
Amanda, did either or both of those, rely on, did they participate in the state library, building funds, or was it self-funded?
It would have been the first one, $42 million. I feel like there was a small portion that it would have been from the library, but it was not very.
From the state library?
Yeah, it was the library. And
Yes, there was some talk about that early in this working group, and I think it's generally agreed, and I would agree. That it's not, you know, we shouldn't be like competing for the state funding. It's you tie yourself to a lot of standards that may or may not make sense, and it, you know, as opposed to like a school building authority or the state school. It is similar framework for libraries, and we felt not only is it a long lead time, it would be very difficult for us to be competitive, but you also are bringing in a lot of standards that may or may not apply. So the idea here is this would be self-funded.
yeah.
By the town of West Newbury generally. How much of that's from the library trust versus the town general fund? That's all stuff that, and we talked about this at the last meeting, which again, that was Monday night. I mean, I feel like we're in this endless loop, like the MBTA meets Monday night, you're Thursday, same as library, anyhow, but it was talked about that, you know, you always want to have an eye toward who's going to be paying the bill at the end of the day, and make sure that entity is involved right from the outset. And so that's where it gets into discussion of making sure, for instance, the finance committee is well versed on this. You know, those involved with capital planning and taxpayers and well aware, because you don't want to go through all this work and have a proposal brought forward, you know, let's say, you know, I'll just say, I don't know what, like a year and a half from now, just to even like, because this is just feasibility, then it would be a proposal to do design and architecture. So let's say that was to come to the Springtown meeting in 2020, what would be 7?
Yeah.
You know, and to have voters say, hey, where did this come from? Like, that's a nightmare scenario. You gotta make sure people are engaged on the front end.
Well, if the library board of trustees wants to take it all on and they're funding it, that's one
That's a
scenario.
different thing, correct.
So they've got to decide where the money's coming from before they decide they're
I
gonna
think
grab
their fund
control.
is like 3 million, isn't it? It's not enough to
Well,
fund.
so then they're gonna have to realize
Yeah.
you better engage the
Well, that's
community
right.
real quick.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, unless they could, and we haven't even begun to look into this, so it would be very premature to in some ways, but I mean, you know, theoretically could, the town issue, you know, borrowing with the funding source being the library trust. I don't know if there's enough recurring money because of the investment of that, you know, that's, you know, there's different ways to get there. One thing just of note, and this has been an open issue for probably about 130 years now, is but more recently in this week. So we had the new auditors in this week. They were here all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, very positive. Myself and other finance staff and others in the building spent a lot of time with them. Wendy met with them, and they met with Kate, a lot of things. Anyhow, very good. But there's one item that we cannot find that we've been trying to find for years. And it's the trust document for the library trust. And we've been looking for this for years because auditors look for it, and we, you know, there's a lot, and this is like the one, and of the hundreds of things they've asked for, we've provided hundreds minus 2. There's 2 documents that we cannot find. And we've been looking for, we've been pressing the library, because they're the trust. So they would presumably be the keeper of the records of the trust document. The treasurer, our treasurer, town treasurer Caitlin Gilbert, she can't contact the trust management, the financial manager, because she's not on that document. She's not, they won't speak to her. So we're really pressing the trustee of the library board of trustees. But the reason I say 130 years is I just learned today, because Max, sorry, Amanda left, because she's been actively part of the hunt of like looking through every file in this building, trying to find this trust document. This goes back to the late 1800s is when that trust was established. But the auditor's looking for, where is the trust document? You've got millions of dollars under trust. We haven't been able to find it. We're gonna keep looking. Caitlin sent out something to Corinne and the library board trustee today, the treasurer of the board, but we literally have been asking for this for years and years, and they can't find it, but we're now saying like, we need you to look everywhere, because if we have to tell the auditor, like that's,
What's the implication of that if we can't find it?
well, I don't wanna get ahead of myself on
All
that,
right,
but there could be
It's
an
not-
implication.
Yeah.
The other one we're looking for was
yeah, like,
no. No, there isn't one.
Which one?
The Elliott funds, there is no trust document, so
Okay.
that might be something that as like an audit finding. We might wanna
Develop,
execute, but no, that has never existed, no, but the one that. Certainly should exist, but. We cannot find an executed copy is the OPEB trust.
Hmm.
It was authorized by town meeting in 2010, it was, there was a revised. Authorized by town meeting in 2013. There is a Word version of a 2013 document, but no one can find the executed document. We've contacted McCarran, Rebecca, Max, Amanda, Caitlin, Jenny, when they've been combing through the files. Cannot find it. And is it possible that there isn't one? It's possible. That would be a significant.
The library is more significant, particularly if you're looking to go forward.
Correct, no, they're both
There's
very
a lot
significant,
going on.
but anyhow, Amanda, I was just talking a little bit about our search for the library trust document and the OPEB trust.
Oh, the OPEB, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not uncommon for documents.
No,
to
no,
not
so
be
it'll,
discussed.
you know, and, you know, we will, with that one, we will fix it. If it was never properly executed, we'll bring forward a confirmatory trust and we'll get it fixed, but these are some of the, you know, housekeeping items, but the library one, I mean, it goes, the original thing goes back to the 1890s, so.
Hundreds of these things will come up again, in the future.
Yeah.
Well, we still have some old townies who were around then.
Probably have copies too.
Sure.
all right, last item under discussion is.
I'm sorry, Wendy, that just, so this is really probably gonna be on the next board
Yeah,
agenda?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to make for Chris and Ross, so because the scope is in very late stage form.
Yeah.
Like very just about final form. Before final form meeting for the board to review, not final form for you guys to review, so it'll be on the next agenda
For the feasibility study.
for the
Yeah.
feasibility study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Again, that's surprising, but
how, so.
just to hear it's already at that stage and was
Well-
just sort of hear.
No, it's at that stage for you guys to review and provide input. The idea being, if you're being asked on August 21st to put an article on the fall town meeting warrant. That's what's been driving the whole timeline, so, and it's really just, I mean, the scope. Can continue to move in August, September, October. You know, it's really just pinning down the funding amount and making sure that you guys are aware of and supportive of. The scope of what this funding would support and finance committee and so forth. So no, it's not, it's, Chris, do not misunderstand, it's not final
I'm
draft.
getting gun shy.
No, it's, and, you know, it's trying to get it ready for prime time for you guys. In the meantime, it's been in circulation for weeks and weeks, it's all public, and you're certainly welcome to see the red lines and all of that. We've kind of been sparing you from that, but if you want,
Yeah, if
like
you
the
want more
current,
documents, Chris.
if you want the current working draft, it's, you know, Corinne's building in some revisions some guidance that was given at Monday night's meeting, and she's gonna recirculate it, I think tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So that'll hit our inboxes tomorrow. and then, anyhow, so yeah, for the next meeting. But.
Yeah. All right, that's to look forward to. So the next item is just to talk about a timeline. Angus shared all the select board policies and we talked about updating, maybe adding some new ones. You had a recommendation, right, for new
Yes,
policies?
that's your few,
One was the facility use.
yeah, but that's not a select board, that's a town policy. See, this is where I started getting confused, so listings of all the policies, like. Why is one a select board, one is a town, and why do they overlap, where do they, I mean, I think you can't look at just a select board, I think you're gonna have to.
All right, well, let's just start with the select board policies.
Another one, and this is one I sent. Was, we talked a while ago about, brain cramp here. The Dunn property at, Pipe State Fields. Probably 2 years ago, Rick was on select board, you said they're being farmed and somebody has a lease and whatnot.
Yeah.
We were gonna get the lease, I haven't seen it, I've got plenty of other things to do.
Oh, I thought I had sent it around, I've definitely,
My question,
it's not a lease, it's a license agreement.
okay, whatever, and I said, we've got many other properties in town, how many of them? Have opportunities to have agricultural or other uses on them, should we be looking at that, is there a policy? And then the back of that, the Ag Commission, that could be a good first project for them to assess, We said Dunn property, by the way. That used to be pumpkins years ago in Dunn, they farmed pumpkins, and the back field, the long thin one on Pipe State used to be corn. But when they dredged Mill Pond, we got 800,000 from the state. And they said no more row crops, so it was getting hay, but now I don't even know if it's getting hay.
I don't think so.
So again, that's a pretty magnificent field, it could be in agricultural production in some fashion. And I suspect we've got many other properties we don't even think about that could be. So,
All right, noted for the Ag Commission committee,
Committee.
but,
but there's gotta be a policy that encompasses
yeah.
that too, what chemicals can get used and what crops can get planted and who has the opportunity to bid on it, whatever, so.
All right,
That's another policy.
all right. In terms of a timeline of improving what we have and suggesting new ones, I mean, where does this fit with our priorities and?
I don't know.
I think maybe it might be good to have a refresher on what can be a policy, and what has to be a bylaw.
Okay,
Not right now,
yeah,
but I think what President suggested would be a bylaw, that would have to go through town meeting, anything with enforcement. And special permits and work the special permit process that I'm working through, that's gonna be a bylaw, anything that charges fees as enforcement, anything like that.
Is
Has
that
to be
bylaw?
town meeting through the legislative body.
One thing I missed from my last job, where we had a town charter where everything was laid out really clearly, was under the town charter, the council could act in 3 different ways: an ordinance, an order, and a resolution. And every single action was one of those 3 things, and they all were different things. And a resolution would be like a proclamation to declare this, like,
Twin
town
sister
clerk
city in Newbury.
recognition day, but anyhow, and it was great, but it was all very, and by the way, they didn't operate that when I started there in 2015. They operated that way because when I started there in 2015, I was trying to make sense of what they were doing, which was more like. They told this, and I worked with them and they were very receptive. I said, everything you do as a council is one of these 3 things, and so we started. Organizing it around the agenda that way, and ordinances require public hearings, orders, but that's something this town of West Newbury has lacked for the whole time I've been here, and I remember talking with them in 2018, because they would just, I mean, I don't wanna go back to the Wayback Machine, but a meeting would happen. And someone on the board would say, and it wouldn't have even been on the agenda, they'd say, well, I think we should have a policy, like Chris would have said what he just said.
Yeah.
Ross would have said, I second. All those in favor, and all of a sudden my head would be spinning like, whoa, they just adopted a policy, it's not even in writing.
So I can do that.
That's how it was going, and that's how it'd been going for years before I got here. And I remember McCarron would say to me like, oh, well, but that's not in the policy. I said, Mike, where are all the policies? He said, oh, they're around. So this back in 2018, so I went to Mike, I went to Mary, and I said, I wanna see all the policies. And they'd have policies that would be in someone's file cabinet. And the example I gave was not an exaggeration. That happened at one of my first meetings, that they made a motion to adopt a policy. And I said, whoa, okay, here's what you say, I get that's what you wanna do. I will reduce to writing what I just heard you say, and I will bring it to the next meeting for you to vote. And they did, and that kind of set the tone, that, cause I'm like, I can't the next day be writing the policy that you voted tonight verbal, like, that's not how this is gonna go. But that is how it went for years before, so this
You
whole.
need to start with an education on the whole,
Yeah.
because I'm looking, there's guidelines, there's regulations, there's policies, everything.
But just to finish, so putting that into a single cover was my initiative to try to make sense of all these things, and that's why you see some are undated and some are. Like, that didn't exist. I did that to try to have, but I don't, it's not a cohesive document. That's something that's a Frankenstein that reflected a lot of different actions over a long period of time. Back in 2018, 2019, I worked with department heads to, some were repealed, some were revised, and we focused on those that were problems rather than trying to make everything perfect. And we've never gone back and tried to make everything perfect, because it's never been important enough, frankly, in the context of everything else we have done.
So it's a good first step for Amanda to look through that and identify which are in fact policies and which should be something.
I did.
Yeah,
I did
that would be
start-
great,
I did
yeah.
start going through that, and Angus and I had a chat today because I think it would be very helpful, and like, we were both talking about city council rules, procedures. It's very clear rules and guidelines on how your agendas are set, how your minutes are done, how your meetings are run. All the different things that you can pass, whether it would be something that was stored to a bylaw, whether it's a measure. So that you have clear instructions, like appointments. So should I nominate someone, like in Amesbury, anytime we are appointing someone to the city council, the first step is making a motion to nominate someone. And then the other people can either second or not, so you would have clear guidelines on how you handle everything, so there's never questions, you can go through your meetings like this. Talking again, policy versus bylaw. Making sure that what you guys are doing, you have the authority to do, that you're making sure it's done properly, so it really protects everybody. It's more efficient for staff, for the public to know how things are gonna go, and it will help you guys a lot.
So that sounds like a much.
That's a
better
separate
project.
document.
Yeah.
No, but that's actually not gonna be a big lift, because he's got one, I have the Hamden Town Council rules, which were terrific. I think I gave them to you years ago. I gave them to Archie when he was chair. I gave them probably to Rick when he was chair. And it's just, again, it's never been like a priority, but I think where she's bringing this initiative, so I sent those to her. She's gonna put together a select board rules of procedure for you guys to review.
You can edit the different details.
Yeah, but I think you'll find that it's actually gonna bring a lot of clarity, and it's not gonna be a big project, cause she's got this in her head, like she's gonna be able to crack this out.
Yeah.
But that I think can help us in disentangling some of these, cause as I go through some of these, some of them, to me, are really personnel policies, like they ought to be in the personnel policy.
Yeah.
So I think if you look back at the goal setting from 2018, on the very first list that I produced for my board was to, in light of the adoption of a new form of government, town manager form of government, and all that's in there, to review all existing bylaws, regulations, and policies to ensure internal consistency. That remains on my list. It has, and obviously we've made a ton of headway, piecemeal, this, that, and the other. But to this day, I've been talking about this for 7 years. And this board, and for the last many years, you've been receptive. The first couple of years, it was kind of like, well, that's not, it just wasn't important, but it is important. So I agree with what Chris is saying. I would just caution, we can't make the perfect the enemy of the good, because to make this perfect, like there's other stuff we would have to do also.
It's never gonna be perfect, because it's always evolving too.
Right.
The other fascinating thing was just reading through these. And some of the things like, yeah, we should have done better on that, or we could, one that. What talks about grant applications and how we need to be prepared so we can evaluate staff time. That was one that came up tonight that we probably have to look at.
Yeah.
A lot closer. There was another one about. Town resources for publicity and events.
Mhm.
We had the issue where people wanted to put lights on buildings and things
We-
like that.
we
Be very
actually-
careful.
We actually cited that policy this morning. That came up absolutely this morning because, Matt Felzani stopped in this morning. He was talking to Max about, oh, can we make people aware of the registration dates coming up for Pentucket Youth Sports? And so Max was talking with him. I overheard it. I said, and I brought Max in, I said, read the policy. So we read the policy. I felt very comfortable that making people aware of registration deadlines for youth lacrosse or whatever was completely in bounds. So I told Max it's fine. And told Matt, like, great, just send Max it, because it's not political, but we consulted that policy this morning.
But again, just for me to read through them all and see what, we have pretty clear direction in most of this, whether you
Yeah.
like it or not, that's one thing, but
Yeah,
this is the way we're supposed to be going, so it's
yeah,
good.
and I think if there's stuff in here that's like a problem, either in its existence or in the absence of something, let's focus on those. And if there's other stuff that's housekeeping stuff, I think that'll remain on the work list for a while until we're less strapped.
But wouldn't it make sense as a first cut to remove things that should be in the personnel policy? And
Definitely,
so
yeah,
maybe that's part of what Amanda works on.
And some of them to me that Chris is bringing up seem like financial policies, like it wouldn't be a select board policy, it would be like a town financial policy that gets amended.
right, which really I have the authority to issue town financial policies. Thanks to the policy that this board adopted a few years ago to explicitly give me that authority. But that is how it is in every other town, this the town, the finance director isn't getting board approval, they're just, on like when payroll gets submitted, those are finance department issues.
Yeah,
Um,
well, so how about if you're working on this, if you just give us stuff to review as it's ready? Does that work for an approach, rather than us trying?
I mean, I definitely think if any of you have things that you see are problematic, you either send us a note or mark it up and drop it off, that's great, because that helps us focus our time on the things that are problematic. And that way we kind of tackle those. One thing on the personnel policy, we have made a lot of piecemeal changes to that in the 7 years I've been here. We have still not to this day ever done a top to bottom review. We have a working draft that has been in draft form for 5 years. Jenny and I worked on it, Rebecca's done a lot of work on it. It's never gotten to the point where it's ready for a vote. One of the concerns I have about the personnel policy is that the way it's written. First of all, there's, I think, fairly onerous notice requirements of 10 days advance notice to all staff. So it just makes it harder to do. It makes it take more time and it means some things languish, but also it needs a 3-0 vote of the board. So there are things in the personnel policy that we've had in draft form for literally years, but we can't get them over the finish line because of all the stuff we're trying to do every day. So I would hate to see focus on these policies, like skip over personnel policies that literally worked on for years and we can't find the time to
So
finish.
can you prioritize then, or can Amanda?
Well, that's where this whole goal setting, we need this goal setting to work and be durable so we can then work the plan, because right now, just in the last 2 weeks, I mean, and I'm guilty of this myself, with this whole land management plans with invasives. That's not, I mean, it's kind of on that list of like mowing, but that's 7 different projects, each of which will consume many, many, many dozens of hours of staff time. So by August 21st, when you guys will be asked to vote the priorities, we just need to make sure that is a complete list. And if part of that is to revise not just those policies, because that's not one item, that might be 40 items. Put it on the list of priorities so that I can then give clear direction to staff.
Okay,
And not be every day saying, oh, I know yesterday this was the project, now today's the project. That's not management, that's crisis management.
so the policies are not on the priority list? I thought there was.
There, I'd have to look
Alright,
back,
I forgot.
but I do know it's been on my list. This whole idea of integrating for internal consistency.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a big project.
Yeah.
So I'll work on drafts, a couple different sets of draft rules of procedures that you could consider adopting. Also, I mean, we don't have a charter, so it doesn't lay it out, but usually anytime there's a new session or a new member, the rules would be reconsidered. And you'd have, the new member would have the option to give their feedback and you can amend it at any time. But I think giving that to you guys and maybe restructuring after talking, seeing Angus and Becca and how much time they put into the packets, probably. Can we admit how much time?
Yeah, no, we had a really good conversation today. She's got great ideas for reform.
20 hours per meeting.
No, I think I said 15.
15
Yeah.
hours.
She
for me to
asked
do the
me,
agenda and packet.
yeah, between, you know, the 4 or 5 versions of the agenda that we work on before it's posted. Those conversations, those meetings, assembling the packet, and that was probably my personal time, that is.
Yeah, not Becca's, and
with
Becca's doing it as well.
So Amanda's point was, if we can find a way that these packets aren't taking 15 hours of my time every meeting, 40 to 45 meetings a year.
15 hours of.
And if it went to like 3 hours instead of 15 hours, that list would start getting shorter more quickly, because I wouldn't be.
Well, if you can figure that out.
I can,
Good.
so.
She's got ideas, yeah.
So I used to think we were like doing too much, and it was very too transparent, but we did a really great job. We used to put all of our ordinances by number on the website, so everybody could go and look at what we were passing. I know when I was looking back, and Newburyport didn't do them individually, they would just scan their entire packet. Kind of like what Angus and Becca do, but they didn't number anything, they don't link anything, they don't put letters and then numbers in the corner, it was just a scan. So I think we are going above and beyond, and Angus is putting enough work, almost like this is like an annual report or something. And really, the 3 of you guys and maybe a handful of residents are utilizing that. I think we put the agenda together. And so in Newbury, I had to do paper copies for a while. Then we moved into, we got Microsoft Teams, which we will be getting shortly. There's a feature on there that is like a Google Drive. But what we do is we have a Google Teams account for city council, but you have a select board. And every meeting, we would send you an email, here's the packet for the meeting. You would click on the folder and it will bring you into select board, and then there will be a folder for each meeting. Inside that folder is a folder that says agendas, minutes, recommendation, whatever. The next one is correspondence. So any emails or anything that Angus would have put in here that's relevant, he's gonna drag it and drop it in there.
Which, by the way, we're already doing on an internal server that me and staff are already doing. But then it's this extra step of assembling it and batching it.
It's a lot, and
It's
you've
a lot.
got everything in there, it gets sent to you immediately. For those who like paper copies, we can still print everything out hard copy, but it's not gonna be as like detail oriented. Put together the same way, you'll still get the same information. So that could be a possibility. I just think there's a lot of little tweaks we could make to utilize our time so much better
Excellent,
if you're amenable to it.
absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
So as far as the policies of the select board, where do we leave off with the 40 policy? Because I think we had said that we were gonna try and talk about those at the 8-10 meeting or whatever it was, the first meeting on, so are we tabling that for now?
The policies?
Yeah, is that what we started talking about?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, like a timeline for doing it. So, I think what Angus suggested is if you read through on your own, if you see any that are problematic, to let them know.
So email you guys.
Either email or if you just mark it up with a red pen or just put a big X through it.
Yeah.
That's really, I'm at the point right now where. There are emails that came in on the couple of days off I took in June that I have not got back. I get so much email, people would never believe. So I always tell staff, like, call me. You know, even with me and Rebecca both having full access to my email, it's just the volume is too much. So call, drop off, email Amanda,
Email to me.
like it's people wouldn't believe.
Okay.
And I know someone will probably quote me on that, oh, the town manager has emails he hasn't read. Like, I could work 50 hours a day and I couldn't keep up. There's that volume that goes through my system, you know. And then the computer crashes because the computer can't keep up, so, and then you lose half the data.
Yeah, so if you identify ones that you think are a problem or ones you want to see improved, I think that'd be a good start.
Okay.
And we can go through and find the ones that, like, this should be in the financial policy, or should be in the select board, this should be on personnel. And then we
Is
can
that
work on
something you would
strike.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah, because I.
this one should be a bylaw.
Yeah, that would be
Go
excellent.
to them,
Yeah.
yeah, we can go through that list.
All right, great. So should we have it as an agenda item for the next meeting or maybe wait 2 meetings?
I would wait a bit, this could be a project,
Okay.
especially with working on, like, we're doing the special events right now. I'm working on a couple, actually, I'm working on a select board policy for signature stamps, so it's thorough and laid out. I'm working on a town meeting article to accept 22F, that's the financial for fees that would allow you guys to set a policy so that these don't have to go through town meeting, which we do.
Yeah.
So a lot of little things,
Okay.
but this will be written ongoing.
All right, well, we'll wait for you.
But I would say, I mean, I guess I don't wanna, I guess I would say. Piecemeal to me would be better than trying to tackle it all. So if there's a specific policy.
Yeah.
And the board's pretty much like, yeah, we're ready to repeal that or amend it. And it's ready to go, like, let's get that one done, instead of like holding off and trying to do a comprehensive.
So why don't we start with ones that should go? Are there
Yeah,
any
that's
that
a
should-
great start,
Then there's no work, it's just deciding, yeah, let's get rid of that.
yeah.
A motion to strike
Yeah,
X amount. Anymore.
okay, that's a good first step. All right. What are you laughing at, Chris?
That should be fun.
Yeah.
Do you wanna volunteer to help us, Chris?
No.
No, okay.
I already have a task.
He's got a phone call to make.
Yeah.
All right, correspondence, this is a, correspondence and items for the next meeting agenda, so the select board email, and I've been corresponding with somebody who's unhappy with the trail situation over at Whetstone. And this brings up one of our classic problems with trails that are proposed by developers as part of a development, because they think it'll make their project more appealing, but then there's no plan for who's gonna maintain it, so. Over in Sullivan's Court, they actually have a trail that goes from the street along a private property, like through a stormwater easement to the riverfront.
This is,
Yeah.
you want.
So this is an example, it's called the Merrimack Rim Trail. That doesn't really show what on the ground, but that actually goes along the border of somebody's property who has a riverfront home. It's a dead end, there's no bench there, there's nothing there, and so. This was proposed by the developer, somebody on the open space committee made this map and installed signs all throughout there, and so this person is saying, who's maintaining these trails? Who, the signs are missing, they also commented on the Sullivan Meadow Trail, but that's an HOA trail, that's not town responsibility. So I was trying to explain to this person, these aren't town-owned properties, they're either easements or owned by the HOA, and their point was, well, this is from the Open Space Committee website.
Yeah.
So they're being advertised as trails and they're not being maintained, so it just seems like, I would suggest taking this down, unless you feel like we wanna create and maintain these trails that were promised as part of the Sullivan's Court development. So we can discuss this at the next meeting, but I just wanted to make you aware that,
So the concern, just so I understand, is from someone who's saying it shouldn't be posted if it doesn't in fact.
well, the
exist,
initial
or-
point was, why are the signs missing? Why are the trails not being maintained, and then when I explained the situation that it's not actually town-owned property, they said, well, then why are the signs posted and why are they advertised as trails if you're not gonna maintain them, which is a fair point.
We just had the discussion on the
I know.
one of, well, yeah,
Yeah, there's a long history on this particular one.
Yeah.
And I'm just hearing about this now, I wasn't aware, but there's a long history on this one, and,
So.
I mean, my personal opinion is that this would not be a legal trail. Once you have a, destination that does trigger accessibility requirements, anyone who's been out here, this is a steep, going down someone's driveway. And then at some point coming off their driveway around the detention basin,
Over the riprap.
over the riprap, like it is not a trail. I think personally it's an intrusion on someone's private property. That's my opinion. I know others would disagree. I also think that some of these conditions that have been imposed over the years by the planning board on developments amount to unlawful exactions, which is a whole other
Yeah.
pretty big topic.
So I'm assuming we don't want DPW to go out and clear these trails. So I guess, this is not a discussion item, I just want some guidance on how you want me to respond. Or I can just wing it,
You're very good at winging it, I'm sure.
yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I'd love to be in the loop because I've been personally involved with many conversations and meetings on this particular location.
Mhm.
So I would wanna, I'd like to make sure that we're kind of all working with the same information.
Yeah,
And by the way, when I talk about unlawful exactions, that's not a casual statement. I was a land use planner for 15 years. I've been to hundreds of conferences and seminars on land use law and so forth. So I don't just say that casually.
so,
But it's on private property, you said.
well, yes, the Merrimack Rim Trail, the trail to nowhere. That, the town has an easement that was negotiated, it's not owned by the town. Sullivan Meadow Trail, all the white trails there, those are owned by the HOA. The River Meadow Trail, I believe that's also an easement. The town owns.
Serve a meadow trail in the sea.
So that's water. Yeah,
Oh.
so their complaint was from the circle to the square there, that's not maintained and it's all overgrown. The trail itself with the green borders, that's the water department, and that's where the water line runs between them, and that's easily passed.
But it's not water department land, it's under the care and custody of the select board, this 50-foot strip.
Oh, I thought it was owned by the water department.
No.
Okay. All right, that's not where the complaints were, the complaint was from the circle there.
Yeah, and this is actually part of the right of way that is also under the care and custody of the select
It
board.
is, okay, so then that would be appropriate.
Yeah, because this Sullivan's Court extension was accepted as a public road.
Okay,
And it was basically from like roughly here. And it went to this property line and there might have been an easement within that, but it's within the road layout.
so what's the appropriate, should I just,
I guess it's hard to comment without knowing the specific question. There's a lot of history. And it will take me hours
Yeah,
just
so that's
to
why
assemble.
I don't wanna give it to you, so.
But to respond without and potentially say something, and I know a lot more about all this stuff than I do, because you've been here decades, I've just been here 7 years, but this particular area, I've dug pretty deep, on this in terms of the records, and so I would just wanna make sure that there's alignment on, because
Let them know it's on our radar.
it's an onion, I mean, it's an onion, and if we wanna unpeel the onion, we can, but I started work, I mean, this,
I'm not asking
yeah,
us,
no, I know,
the
but
resident is asking, and I can't put it off to the Concom, I mean, so.
yeah. I mean, I think,
Future agenda item.
Yeah, I think this person would be happy if we just take the signs down and take the map off the open space website. Because when I responded that these are HOA properties or it's an easement on private property, she said, well, then why is it posted? So
I
it'll be a
think,
quick solution.
I think that whole issue of the, let's see,
Are you looking for the maps?
there's
The
where.
hiking areas and trail maps is where that one came from.
Right, okay, yeah, this is the page to look at for Chris and Ross, if you're not aware of this. Every single one of these locations has a map. And I have been, actually, that one's different, because, here's the map. Let's just go to. Like, I've had questions since I began here of who are these official map, like, are these official trails, like, there's a lot of information that was put up here many years before I got here. That I think if you go through every one of these, I know I have questions, I know you'll have questions, it's been. You know, how deep do you want to go on this?
All right, okay, I'm just gonna ask the,
I think it goes back to a time in a form where with a lot of committees having a lot of independence, including completely independent ability to maintain and change the website, like that is the bigger picture here.
I was gonna go to a comment, I was gonna make it later on. And I thought about it earlier this week, and I thought about it tonight, and you tie it in again. These boards and committees. A number of them are very autonomous and think they can do their own thing. And they're generally the ones I'm thinking of are appointed by the select board. And it's to help and accommodate the select board, not to go off and do their own thing. And that's becoming a problem, a lot of these.
It's been a problem, that's been
But
one of.
we're having this meeting coming up with them, I think that has to be the starting comment is, we appreciate the help and the good work these people do, but. It has to be under the direction and the guise of the select board and the objectives of the town as a whole. Cause we got everybody spidering off and all these,
right,
and that's when these problems are hitting us.
Well, it's week after week and it's been for 7 years. I mean, and I mean, you guys have seen, it's, we never know where it will, but
yeah.
it's thousands and thousands of hours and I.
It's like whack-a-mole, one pops up out of the blue.
That's what happens with no charter.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
the lack of charter is a huge problem. I mentioned to Ross earlier, like, at this point, after 7 years of being here, I don't believe some of these people care about if me or staff are working 17-hour days and not seeing our family. They don't care. They do not care. I don't believe they care about me as a human being. I don't believe they care about me, about my family, the sacrifices I've made. So but it's got to cut to a point where we can't keep doing this.
West Newbury is just in a very unique situation without having a charter.
Yeah.
It's just very,
But we don't have the time to do charter. It's like
exactly,
yeah,
it's tricky.
so I think the interim solution is dealing with these problems when they come up. And I'm just gonna have Max take that off the open space committee website, tell Carol I'm doing it, and that's it. I mean, you're all right with that, pending us figuring out what we wanna do with these trails.
One thing that will tie into this administratively, as you know, we are needing to do a website refresh. As part of that, we're gonna need to revisit all of the
I
permissions.
don't think anybody should be changing the website unless they're town employees.
Then we should have a select board policy on that, because I have permissions to change that. I could change that tonight. I could log in tonight and disable different accounts.
Yeah,
But I think having a board policy would give me the backing, because
I don't think that's needed, yeah.
absolutely.
It should be
because
very
we
limited
had the
access,
whole-
who can change the website.
The whole debacle about the open space committee membership, they actually went in and removed the person
Well,
that,
that's what I call it, yeah, there's something wrong here. It's a
yeah,
membership, what,
one thing, just so you know, there's an audit trail for every single change on this webpage. I can tell you who made it, what time they made it.
I know, it still doesn't make it easier,
Yeah.
you still have to deal with it.
No, I know, but just so you're aware, if that ever were to come up. But I mean, one of the backgrounds on this particular page is all of these maps that you see that all bear this, copyright.
yeah.
West Newbury Space.
And these are what
2012.
appear in our event applications.
Right,
Well,
but this is a funny story, and I know I've been ranting, but this is a funny story you guys will appreciate. So you see this one's redacted,
mhm.
and you'll see this redaction on lots of these. So, and this must have been 2019, that was pretty new. I know Kemper was chair. It became, something popped up on Facebook that, so the information that's redacted, it said www.westnewburyopenspace.net. And that was on every single one of them. That domain was not a town domain. It had been created by someone who I believe had passed away. The domain had expired, had been taken over by a bad actor and was like had a worm on it or a, a virus. someone posted on Facebook that the town's directing people to this site with malicious worm or whatever. And so Kemper was the chair, he made me aware. So, and he's like, and I said, you know, "Oh, okay, we'll shut that down." So I reached out to John Dodge, who at the time was the chair of the Open Space Committee. I said, "John, we got a real problem here. There's a malicious link and it's on, I don't know how many pages on our site, but at least, I mean, I could see it was on many pages. But there's so many like nooks and crannies in our site." So I said, "John, we got a real problem here. Who, you know," and he said, "Oh, well, no one's been able for years to access that West Newbury OpenSpace.net. That was like, we no longer have control of that." So I said, "Well, so under Kemper's specific direction, I had John Dodge come in. I set him up with Adobe Acrobat. I said, I need you for every one of these, download it, redact it, re-upload it." And again, this is a perfect example. I spent about a day and a half of my time because Glenn needed it done that day. So literally, like this is the type of damage control that burns our time that no one ever sees, but like the stories you go on and on.
So that's the malicious link?
It's redacted.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but combing through this page, our webpage, which had gone back how many years with how many different users, because when I started, every committee had permissions to edit their page. Like there were literally dozens and dozens and dozens of people, non-staff, with permissions
Should
to
only be
edit.
3 or 4 people in the entire town who should be allowed to modify the web.
At that time, we didn't have the staffing structure we have now, so we weren't unless,
So you're saying boards and committees that can still do it?
some of them can.
That should, and you said we need a policy on only town employees, only specific town employees too, it's gotta be.
I guess the only counterpoint I would offer to that is there are a couple of committees that, in my opinion, do an absolutely beautiful job. And their pages are spectacular and they are qualitatively, you know, like way better than many of our other pages. The only downside is there is no oversight of, so like this is one, you know, if you could spend the next 4 days on this page and all the sublinks, so there's an amazing amount of content. But so like that's good and that's a good thing. But is there any oversight of that or management of that? No. So it's kind of,
The new website, actually, you can change the permissions, so boards and committees can have access to redesign, do all the legwork, but then it would have to go to Becca
To be
or
clicked
Mary
to
for
approve.
approval.
That is perfect. That's
I think it fully
gonna,
does, just needs to have approval from staff to then post it.
right. Yeah, so it sounds like we'll have that functionality.
She was talking about that.
Okay, good.
All right. Let's move on.
Thank you.
Moving on to executive session for MGL chapter 38, section 21A2, 6, and 7.
Second.
All in favor?
I
You guy.
Have them full line.
All right. We'll be returning to open session and voting on one item.
Voting on one item.
Okay, returning to open session. We don't have an item for that, right?
We do, yes. Item C.
Oh, sorry.
J, request approval of proposed revisions to FY 26 salary wage schedule.
Do you have a motion on that?
need a motion to present the wage schedules as submitted, with the one exception being that the verbiage should be part-time dispatch, commit to work minimum of 4 shifts per month to align with the reserve officers wording.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.